Chapter 2093. Yi Fei felt that something was wrong. The Sky River Imperial family clearly knew that he could absorb and refine the source of the baleful energy, so why would they still send corpse soldiers to deal with him? Were they not afraid that he would use the undying sword soul to refine all of these corpse soldiers? There must be something strange going on here. Could it be that these corpse soldiers have something on them that can resist the refinement of the undying sword soul? As this thought flashed through his mind, the undying sword token in Yi Fei's hand sensed the rich source aura of the surrounding corpse soldiers and automatically released a terrifying black gold sword shadow. But when this sword shadow appeared, it immediately intimidated the surrounding corpse soldiers. They instinctively sensed the undying sword soul. Fear. But these corpse soldiers only hesitated for a moment. Their cold eyes suddenly flashed with an unforgettable hatred. Yi Fei, return this king's life. Roar. The leading corpse soldier suddenly roared. The livor mortis on its face cracked open, revealing a pale and cold face. It was King Qi's face. Back in the Sky River Imperial family, King Qi, by Qizhen, had tried to recruit Yi Fei. But when he failed, he tried to kill Yi Fei. If Yi Fei hadn't refined a large amount of baleful energy and accumulated a vigorous heavenly venerate source, he might have already died in King Qi manner. Yi Fei never imagined that King Qi, who he had once killed, would turn into a corpse soldier and come for his life. The ruthlessness of the Sky River Imperial family shocked him. Even members of the Imperial family would be refined into corpse soldiers after death. This was too crazy and too cruel. Roar. King Qi's corpse spirit was clearly the leader of the corpse soldiers. Following its command, the remaining corpse soldiers finally overcame their fear of the undying sword soul. They roared and once again formed a 12-man corpse soldier formation and furiously charged at Yi Fei. Yi Fei also felt a strong sense of impending death. He knew that if he couldn't break through this 12-man corpse soldier formation, he would very likely be killed by these corpse soldiers in an instant, let alone escape. Scram! Finally, Yi Fei activated the undying sword soul in his hand. It formed a dazzling black gold divine light and slashed forward. The rolling sword Qi caused the charging corpse soldiers to slow down. Only King Qi's zombie spirit continued to stare hatefully at Yi Fei as it charged forward. As it charged forward, it grinned hideously as it crashed into Yi Fei's black gold sword. King Qi's corpse spirit has gone mad. What's the difference between this and suicide? Wait a minute. He's throwing his life away, could it be? Boom! Profound Qi exploded from Yi Fei's body, forming layers of waves as he tried to push Prince Qi away. It's too late. The moment you rejected my Sky River Imperial family's recruitment, you were already a dead man. This was not King Qi's voice, but Madame Meng's cold voice. She had used a secret technique to awaken the hatred of King Qi's zombie spirit. She had also hidden her words in the zombie spirit's body. Only when the zombie spirit charged forward and crashed into the undying sword token did Madame Meng reveal her final trump card. That was the endless corpse poison mixed in with the sovereign's origin. The sword soul instantly absorbed it all. Not good, it's corpse poison. Yi Fei's expression changed. At this moment, he finally understood why the Sky River Imperial family had sent corpse soldiers to deal with him despite knowing that he could refine the baleful energy origin. It turned out that they had hidden a huge amount of poison in the corpse soldiers and had even cleverly mixed it with the baleful energy origin. This way, when the undying sword soul absorbed the baleful energy origin, it would also absorb the corpse poison. After realizing this, Yi Fei almost immediately pulled the undying sword token out of King Qi's corpse soldiers. However, he was still a step too late. When the undying sword token stabbed into the corpse soldier's body, it automatically absorbed and refined the baleful energy origin. No matter how fast Yi Fei's reaction was, the undying sword token stabbed into the corpse soldier's body less than a breath's time. there was still a strong stench of corpse poison that followed the undying sword token and quickly spread to his palm, arm, and then his entire body. Yi Fei was so frightened that his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He hurriedly activated the undying sword soul and circulated all the Xian energy in his body in an attempt to suppress this poison. However, what terrified him was that this corpse poison was too terrifying. It was also a type of energy, the energy of a zombie spirit. Therefore, the undying sword soul could not purge it of its own accord. Moreover, this corpse poison was pervasive and could even devour Xian energy. When Yi Fei circulated his Xian energy, he was shocked to discover that the Xian energy he released was rapidly turning green at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Fei did not know that what he had been poisoned with was not ordinary corpse poison. It was the Dao Lord corpse poison that the Sky River Imperial family had specially prepared for him. This kind of huge poison could even kill a Dao Lord if they were not careful. Unless Yi Fei could completely control the undying sword token, there was no way he could dispel this kind of poison. He would not be able to dispel this huge poison. What a vicious Sky River Imperial family! What a powerful corpse poison! Am I going to die here today? Yi Fei's expression was ugly. The blood that he spat out was faintly tinged with green corpse poison. What was more terrifying was that the outside of his sky palace was now filled with green poisonous fog. It kept invading his sky palace. If Yi Fei did not have the sky palace and the emperor's throne, which formed a double layer of protection for his soul, he would probably have died. The moment the poisonous fog invaded his sky palace, his soul would have already decayed and he would have turned into a corpse. After understanding how terrifying this corpse poison was, Yi Fei did not dare to use his Xian energy rashly anymore. Instead, he hurriedly called out the dragon turtle. "Blackie, run quickly!" Yi Fei's face was ashen. He sat cross-legged on the dragon turtle's back and directly burned his heavenly venerate origin energy to suppress the corpse poison in his body. Knowing how dangerous the situation was, the dragon turtle immediately grew in size. It carried Yi Fei on its back and ran for its life. Behind the dragon turtle was a large group of frost armor zombie soldiers. Terrifying ghostly howls could be heard. King Qi's zombie spirit valiantly pounced forward. Although it did not manage to catch Yi Fei, one of its zombie claws managed to grab the dragon turtle's tail. Roar! The dragon turtle was so frightened that its hair stood on end. It almost flung Yi Fei off its back. Yi Fei's expression darkened. He shouted, "Blackie, strengthen the turtle and cut off its tail." He was poisoned, but he could still rely on his sovereign divine body to buy time. If the dragon turtle was poisoned, it would probably die immediately. When the dragon turtle heard this, 2 streams of tears immediately rolled down its cheek. It was still young after all. It was still a turtle cub and not a strong turtle. At this moment, how could the dragon turtle bear to cut off its tail and become a tailed turtle? Roar! The dragon turtle's tail swung wildly like an iron rod. However, it didn't swing backward, but forward. At the same time, the dragon turtle's neck twisted from front to back. As it opened its black mouth, a dragon pearl the size of a washbasin shot out with surging demonic chi. It was evil again. It ruthlessly smashed onto King Qi's zombie soldiers. Chapter 2094. The dragon pearl seemed to be attracted by a fatal force as it suddenly erupted with a dazzling divine dragon light. Amidst the dragon light that filled the sky, Yi Fei clearly saw the ruler's dragon pearl transform into a dancing green poison dragon. It opened its mouth and swallowed the corpse soldier in front of it. Swallowed. Yi Fei was shocked by this unbelievable scene. King Qi's corpse soldier, which had almost poisoned him to death, had actually been swallowed by the dragon pearl? Roar! Swallowing King Qi's corpse spirit wasn't enough. The green poison dragon relied entirely on its instincts and pounced on the other corpse soldiers. It opened its mouth and spat out a cold and broken corpse. That was King Qi's corpse. However, King Qi was no longer a corpse soldier. His corpse was exposed to the air, and it was rotting away like mud. After that, Yi Fei saw another corpse soldier being swallowed by the poison dragon. It instinctively swallowed for a while, and when it spat it out again, that corpse soldier had already turned into a completely rotten corpse. The yin qi and poisonous gas in its body had completely dissipated. Could it be that this ruler's dragon pearl can devour corpse poison? A look of ecstasy flashed across Yi Fei's face. He should have thought of this earlier. This dragon pearl was originally of the poison attribute. A mere earthly venerable flying serpent could easily poison a ruler to death by using it. Now, this dragon pearl could devour corpse poison and strengthen itself. It wouldn't be strange for him to be able to devour it. Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat as he instructed the dragon turtle, who was still in a daze. Dragon turtle, try and see if you can control that poison dragon and devour all these corpse soldiers. Roar! The dragon turtle was dumbfounded as it looked at the sovereign dragon pearl it had refined. It had turned into a terrifying poisonous dragon that devoured corpse soldiers. This poisonous dragon seemed to be the nemesis of all poisonous creatures. When the dragon turtle tried to control this poisonous dragon, it suddenly had a feeling that it had turned into this poisonous dragon. As the dragon turtle opened its mouth, the poison dragon also rapidly opened its mouth and viciously swallowed 2 corpse soldiers in front of it. Kill! The remaining zombie soldiers did not retreat. They had received orders to kill Yi Fei. As long as Yi Fei did not die, they would continue their frenzied attacks. At this moment, 3 zombie soldiers joined forces and charged towards the poison dragon in midair. His face, which was covered with livor mortis spots, flashed a cold and sinister smile. Then, the 3 corpse soldiers exploded, forming the most terrifying self-destruction of a sovereign. This gave the dragon tortoise, who had transformed into a poison dragon, a fright. It subconsciously curled into a ball to resist the impact of the explosion. Yi Fei was also shocked to see that the terrifying poisonous fog formed by the self-destruction of the 3 corpse soldiers had turned into a dragon pearl. The poison dragon had no effect at all. Instead, it was the poison dragon that instinctively opened its mouth when it sensed the intense poison around it. It actually began to crazily absorb the poison fog around it. Yi Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. This sovereign's dragon pearl can devour corpse poison. Blackie, what are you waiting for? Quickly get rid of all these corpse soldiers. As he spoke, the corpse poison in Yi Fei's body had already completely invaded his sky palace. Even his emperor's throne was filled with a green poisonous fog. If he didn't detoxify it, the corpse poison would directly invade his soul. When that happened, even an immortal wouldn't be able to save him. At this moment, the dragon tortoise had also decisively turned domineering. It was insufferably mighty. It even used its ability to eat spirit stones. The dragon's mouth was so fast that it left afterimages. In just a few breaths, the corpse soldiers on the ground had all been swept away. Not a single one was left. Then, the poison dragon charged towards Yi Fei. It opened its huge mouth and swallowed Yi Fei. Yi Fei was so angry that he almost vomited blood. I asked you to detoxify it. Who told you to swallow me? Why are you still swallowing me? Hurry up and spit me out. Bam! In the end, Yi Fei and the corpse soldiers were all spat out by the poison dragon. Yi Fei's face was even darker. Although he had been swallowed and the corpse poison had been detoxified, the process was very unpleasant. Yi Fei immediately glared at the dragon tortoise with an unfriendly expression. After the poison dragon had swallowed a large amount of corpse poison, it suddenly turned into a green dragon shadow and charged into the dragon tortoise's body. Roar! The dragon tortoise also quickly let out a tragic cry. After the poison dragon entered its body, the dragon tortoise's shell rapidly turned green at a visible speed. It even faintly emitted a strange emerald glow. It instantly turned the dragon tortoise from a large black tortoise into a large green tortoise. This gave Yi Fei and the dragon tortoise a fright. Xiao Qiao also quickly ran out. He looked at the dragon tortoise that had suddenly turned green in amazement. He even wanted to touch it out of curiosity. Yi Fei quickly stopped him. Xiao Qiao, don't touch it. Big Black's situation is a little special. Could it be that it has absorbed too much corpse poison and the Dragon Ball can't take it anymore? Hearing this, the dragon tortoise's face turned green in fright. Its limbs went limp and it actually fell to the ground. It looked at Yi Fei pitifully. Xiao Qiao was also very worried about the dragon tortoise. Yi Fei was also confused about the dragon tortoise's transformation. Big Black's transformation was caused by the Sovereign's Dragon Ball. It looks like to resolve this matter, we still have to start with the Sovereign's Dragon Ball. Big Black, spit out the Dragon Ball again. The dragon tortoise's eyes suddenly filled with tears. It raised a small wooden tablet in despair, and told Yi Fei that the Dragon Ball seemed to have disappeared after entering its body. Hearing this, Xiao Qiao became even more anxious and worried. He even ran over and hugged the dragon tortoise as he started crying. This also scared the dragon tortoise so much that its green mouth turned black. It hurriedly asked Yi Fei for help. Yi Fei's expression was very strange. There were only two possibilities for the Dragon Ball to disappear. Either the Dragon Ball had turned into poison and dispersed into the dragon tortoise's flesh and blood, or the Dragon Ball had been completely refined by the dragon tortoise by chance and had become a part of its body. However, Yi Fei was still unable to determine if the dragon tortoise had been poisoned or if it had refined the Dragon Ball. He thought for a moment and said, "Big Black, spit out a mouthful of dragon saliva. Let me check the situation." Bam! Before it could finish speaking, a large mouthful of dragon saliva had already sprayed onto Yi Fei and Xiao Qiao's faces. The dragon tortoise was shocked. When did it spit out such a large amount of dragon saliva? It was so good. It's over. It must have been poisoned and won't live for long. The dragon tortoise raised a small wooden tablet in despair. Then, its limbs went limp and its turtle shell turned a ghastly green. Damn, it can still spit out so much dragon saliva even after being poisoned. This poison is too nourishing. Big Black, don't worry. You aren't poisoned. If I'm not wrong, the key to fusing with the Sovereign's Dragon Ball is to let the Dragon Ball absorb enough poison. It's very likely that you will suddenly turn green. This is the side effect of absorbing the Dragon Ball. Chapter 2095. Without another word, the dragon turtle hurriedly activated its unique demonic cultivation technique and started cultivating as if its life depended on it. Yi Fei and Xiao Qiao had never seen the dragon turtle cultivate so seriously and crazily before. Xiao Qiao was stunned and Yi Fei was also speechless. However, when he saw that the dragon turtle was still energetic and didn't look like it was poisoned at all, Yi Fei heaved a sigh of relief. He asked Xiao Qiao to stay beside the dragon turtle and not run around. Yi Fei hurriedly walked towards the corpse soldiers that had fallen. His speculation was right. In order to completely activate and refine the poison dragon pearl, the most important thing was for the dragon pearl to absorb enough poison. The imperial family of the Heavenly River used the Tao Lord's corpse poison to assassinate Yi Fei. The poison was so strong that it immediately attracted the poison dragon pearl, and it started to devour the corpse poison instinctively. The corpse soldiers that were devoured by the poison dragon pearl turned into corpses. Although these corpse soldiers are dead, the cold armor and battle swords that they left behind are pretty good spiritual weapons. Yi Fei condensed his mystic energy hand and held his breath. He collected all the cold armor and battle swords from the corpse soldiers. After thinking about it, he was still worried and threw all these items in front of the gigantic dragon turtle. The dragon turtle spat out a stream of water to wash them until it was sure that there was no corpse poison on them. Yi Fei then put the cold armor into his space belt. "I have no use for these treasures. When I have the ability to return to the Earth domain in the future, I will leave them to my family. Yi Fei thought to himself. At this moment, the dragon turtle was still cultivating with all its might. As the dragon turtle cultivated, its green turtle shell emitted dense green mystic energy. This mystic energy seemed to be transforming the dragon turtle's body and making this gigantic creature even bigger. Seeing the dragon turtle's body growing bigger again, Yi Fei felt a wave of sorrow in his heart. The bigger the dragon turtle was, the more it would eat. Yi Fei would have forced the poison dragon pearl out of the dragon turtle's body if it wasn't for the fact that the dragon turtle had unintentionally done something. Just like that, another night passed. The rolling demonic dragon aura on the dragon turtle's body suddenly changed rapidly. Sometimes it was like a dragon, sometimes it was like a tortoise, and sometimes it was like a rolling demonic wind or a green poisonous miasma. Rumble. Yi Fei's face darkened when he heard a faint rumble from the end of the void. Xiao Qiao raised his head in surprise. He looked at the heavenly Tao tribulation clouds that were slowly appearing at the end of the void. Heavenly tribulation of earthly venerable. This was the heavenly tribulation that only appeared when one broke through to the earthly venerable rank. Of course, in the heaven domain, earthly venerables were not very strong. The heavenly tribulations they attracted were not as exaggerated as those in the earth domain. Seeing the heavenly tribulations slowly gathering, Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. I remember that in order to cultivate the Divine Star Academy's 5 lightning divine clock, there are 2 conditions. One is to comprehend the law of lightning, and the other is to find a suitable lightning seed and condense it into a clock. And in this world, the strongest type of lightning was none other than the heavenly tribulation. Perhaps I can make use of this heavenly tribulation to cultivate the 5 lightning divine clock. After being chased by the Frost Elite zombie soldiers, Yi Fei had clearly discovered his own shortcomings. He only had strength, but he did not have a strong enough ability. What was even more depressing was that in order to suppress the corpse poison in his body, he had even burned his own heavenly venerate origin source. His origin source would be damaged. The appearance of this heavenly tribulation gave Yi Fei hope of recovering his origin source. That was to use the undying sword soul to absorb and refine this heavenly tribulation. Xiao Qiao, hurry up and come back. As soon as he thought of this, Yi Fei took back Xiao Qiao. He had already grasped the undying sword token tightly and brazenly charged towards the heavenly tribulation clouds in the sky. Seeing that Yi Fei had taken the initiative to be struck by lightning, the dragon turtle also seized the opportunity and used all its strength to frantically refine and absorb the poison dragon's energy in its body. Boom! With Yi Fei's participation in the heavenly tribulation, the might of the heavenly way was completely stimulated. Rolling lightning formed a terrifying thunderstorm that wanted to pulverize Yi Fei's body. The purple lightning turned into a thick thunder divine dragon. It raised its head and roared, wanting to swallow Yi Fei into its stomach. However, before the thunder divine dragon could get close, the undying sword soul in Yi Fei's hand was already exuding an excited sword light. Then, these sword lights formed an undying sword vortex that swallowed the surrounding thunderstorm and the thunder divine dragon into the vortex. At this moment, heaven and earth formed a unique spectacle. In the sky above, the heavenly tribulation formed a thunder vortex that constantly spewed out lightning and thunder. Below the sky, the undying sword soul formed a sword vortex that corresponded to the heavenly tribulation. However, it spun in the opposite direction, absorbing and refining all the lightning released by the heavenly way. At this moment, Yi Fei was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the heavenly tribulation and the sword vortex. He allowed the countless lightning and thunder to penetrate his body and fall into the sword vortex below him. Under the refinement of the undying sword soul, drops of precious deity tribulation fluid were refined and poured into Yi Fei's body, rapidly repairing the huge loss of his heavenly venerate origin source. At the same time, Yi Fei's mind started to repeatedly deduce the secrets of the Divine Star Academy's 5 Thunders Divine Clock. The undying sword soul also exuded a strange energy that increased Yi Fei's comprehension ability limitlessly, allowing him to comprehend this sovereign mystique faster and in a stronger state. Finally, after an indeterminate amount of time, Yi Fei's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. His body, which had been sitting cross-legged, also stood up straight amidst the lightning and thunder that filled the sky. He had given up on using his golden body of laws to resist the heavenly tribulation. Instead, he had released his own Thunder Divine Law and made this Thunder Divine Law appear from nothing. It had gone from an illusory and ethereal state to something as real as a bell. Clang! When the Thunder Divine Law was formed, a melodious sound of a bell suddenly rang out from Yi Fei's body. Then, the lightning and thunder seemed to be fatally attracted and poured into Yi Fei's body. They also poured into Yi Fei's Thunder Divine Law. Yi Fei could clearly feel that the dark force in his body had started to change to a certain extent. It was now filled with the aura of the Divine Law. It seemed that if he wanted to, he could turn all his dark force into lightning and thunder at any time. Roar! It was also at this moment that the greatest heavenly tribulation came crashing down from the sky. It was a dragon god formed by purple lightning and represented the greatest anger of the heavenly Tao. 5 Thunders, Divine Clock. Yi Fei's face was solemn. He took a deep breath, and the dark force in his body had already turned into endless thunderbolts and lightning, turning his entire body into a divine being formed by thunderbolts. After that, these thunderbolts quickly gathered together and formed a huge 5-colored thunderbolt divine bell. It was like a cover that covered Yi Fei. It covered Yi Fei's entire body completely. Chapter 2096. Madame Meng, you failed again. The subordinate I sent to collect Yi Fei's body didn't find Yi Fei's body. Instead, he found 12 corpse soldiers that had been stripped naked. Is this your so-called foolproof plan? In the end, it's not as effective as your plan. Inside the restaurant owned by the Blood Wolf gang in Qingyun City, Blood Sky Wolf flew into a rage. Even his newly recovered severed hand was still aching with anger. When he heard Madame Meng say that her plan was foolproof and that once used, Yi Fei would definitely die, Blood Sky Wolf was delighted. He even sent one of his subordinates to collect Yi Fei's body. However, when the subordinate arrived the next day, he didn't find Yi Fei's body. Instead, he found 12 rotting corpse soldiers. This shocked and angered Blood Sky Wolf. No matter how much he harbored evil thoughts about Madame Meng, he couldn't bear it anymore. After all, this was the Baiyun nation, not the Tianhe nation. Different nations had different rules. The Blood Wolf gang had received a warning from the Qingyun Pavilion. Before the protection period ended, they were not allowed to attack Yi Fei and the Black Rock Peak. If Madame Meng had insisted on killing Yi Fei, it would have been fine. But now the undead soldiers that Madame Meng had sent out had not only failed to kill Yi Fei, but had also thoroughly offended the Clear Cloud Pavilion. Xue Tianlang could not help but become extremely fearful. When she heard the news from Blood Sky Wolf, Madame Meng, who was holding her teacup elegantly, dropped it with a clang. Failed? Failed again? Who exactly is this Yi Fei? Why is it that my plans always fail at his hands? The 12 corpse soldiers were the Sky River Imperial family's hidden trump card. In order to counter Yi Fei's ability to refine the baleful soldier origin, Madame Meng didn't hesitate to use the Dao Lord corpse poison, which was the Imperial family's most hidden trump card. The reason why the Sky River royal family wanted to kill Yi Fei was not only because of their hatred for Yi Fei, but also because the Sky River royal family already knew that Ren Tianxing had given Renzu's treasure to Yi Fei before he died. Therefore, Madame Meng did not hesitate to pay a huge price to infiltrate the Baiyun nation. In the end, she was defeated. She suffered a crushing defeat. Her worst plan was easily neutralized by Yi Fei. Her best plan, which was foolproof, also failed miserably. It was rare for Madame Meng to be so angry that her face turned red. She threw the teacup and stood up angrily. Is this ye guy my nemesis? But even if you are my nemesis, you must die. Since we can't do it in the dark, then let's do it openly. Blood Sky Wolf, if you still want to take revenge, then gather the Blood Wolf gang. All sovereigns, attack Blackrock Peak. What? Attack Blackrock Peak directly? Blood Sky Wolf's face turned pale. If the Clear Cloud Pavilion finds out, I'm afraid we won't be able to walk out of the Bayou Nation alive. Madame Meng, why don't we discuss this further? You repeatedly ignored the warnings of the Clear Cloud Pavilion and attacked Yi Fei. This assassination attempt has completely broken the rules of the Bayou God and the Clear Cloud Pavilion. We don't have time for that now. Take advantage of the fact that the Clear Cloud Pavilion hasn't dealt with you yet. Bring your people and attack Blackrock Peak immediately. Make a last stand. As for the Clear Cloud Pavilion, I will think of a way to buy you some time. Madame Meng bit her red lips as if she had made up her mind. At this moment, Bai Er walked in with a gloomy face. Madam, young Master Gao Lian sent someone to deliver an invitation. Gao Lian? Blood Sky Wolf's expression changed a few times. He suddenly looked at Madame Meng with some fear. Being in the Bayou Nation, of course he knew who Gao Lian was. He was someone he could not afford to offend. Madame Meng had actually befriended Gao Lian without his knowledge. Blood Sky Wolf suddenly felt his limbs go cold. Madame Meng turned her head and looked at Blood Sky Wolf with pity. Blood Sky Wolf, why are you still standing there? There is no place for you in the Bayou Nation now. Either you stay here and wait for your death, or you stake it all on one throw. Take down the Black Rock Peak and kill Yi Fei. Choose for yourself. After saying this, Madame Meng ignored Blood Sky Wolf's ashen face and walked out of the restaurant gracefully. She got into the carriage and headed towards a more prosperous and lively restaurant in Qingyun City. She believed that Blood Sky Wolf would make the wisest choice. She had to use her advantage to think of a way to please Gao Lian and buy time for Blood Sky Wolf to kill Yi Fei. Blood Sky Wolf did not disappoint Madame Meng. He was a despicable person who forsook righteousness for profit. He had broken the iron rules set by the Bayou Divine Lord twice in a row. Blood Sky Wolf knew that there was no place for him in the Bayou Nation now. The only thing he could do now was to completely rely on the Sky River royal family. Then, according to Madame Meng's order, he would attack the Black Rock Peak at all costs and kill Yi Fei. Only in this way, when he entered the Sky River Kingdom, there would be a chance for the frozen mountain to rise again. Men, gather all our men and follow me back to Blood Wolf Peak. In the restaurant, Blood Sky Wolf's face was gloomy. The intense hatred he had for Yi Fei made him decide to make a last stand. He would mobilize all the forces of Blood Wolf Peak to attack Blackrock Peak and kill Yi Fei directly. He would not give Yi Fei any chance to turn the tables. Not long after, Yi Fei passed through layers of mountains and finally rushed back to Blackrock Peak. Behind him was the high-spirited dragon turtle, whose tail was wagging as it walked. The dragon turtle was very proud. It had completely refined the poisonous dragon pearl. Not only had it passed the earthly venerable tribulation, but it had also rushed to the heavenly venerable realm. The current dragon turtle was already considered a powerful demon supremacy. The only thing that displeased the dragon turtle was that its turtle shell was still a little green. As a result, the black turtle shell was always a little green. Yi Fei's explanation was that this might be because the poison dragon pearl had accumulated too much poison. It needed to wait for the dragon turtle to completely refine the poison or release it before the turtle shell could turn black again. The dragon turtle could only reluctantly accept this explanation. When they returned to the mountain, Lin Chun and Lin Gui immediately noticed that the dragon turtle was different. Lin Gui curiously touched the dragon turtle's shell and said, "That's strange. What did this black turtle eat? Why did it turn green?" Roar. The dragon turtle answered him with a furious roar. It immediately spat out a mouthful of poisonous fire. Lin Gui's face turned green and he fell to the ground. Lin Chen was so frightened that he almost attacked the dragon turtle. "Brother Yi, what is the meaning of this? I can only say that trouble comes from the mouth. Big Black is very sensitive to the word green now," Yi Fei explained in a low voice. He hurriedly asked Lin Chen to apologize to the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle's face turned green as it retracted the poison it had spat out. Lin Gui stood up with lingering fear. He suddenly said in shock, "Yi Fei, your turtle is very powerful. By the way, wasn't it just a martial god a few days ago? How did it break through to the heavenly venerable realm all of a sudden?" "It's a long story. Let's find Senior Jiang first." Yi Fei put away the dragon turtle and went to find Jiangzhen with Lin Chen and Lin Gui. Chapter 2097. Yi Fei didn't need to ask to know that the flying serpent was the cause of the spirit rat's agitation. Only the flying serpent had the ability to control the spirit rat. "By the way, Senior Jiang, I didn't let you down this time. I finally obtained 3 sovereign divine pills." Yi Fei took out 2 sovereign divine pills. Jiangzhen was a sovereign, so he had no use for them. Therefore, he gave one each to Lin Chen and Lin Gui. The two were so touched that their eyes turned red. As the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. Even though Yi Fei had conflicts with the Lin family in the past, Lin Chen and Lin Gui were still touched when Yi Fei took out the sovereign divine pills. They said together, "Brother Yi, thank you very much. Although we have a grudge against you in the past, if you need our help in the future, please don't hesitate to ask." "Don't say that. It's a coincidence that I helped you guys. However, it wasn't easy for me to get these 3 sovereign god pellet. I'm not afraid of anything else. I'm only afraid that the Blood Wolf gang will act against us in desperation." Yi Fei's face darkened as he recounted what happened in Qingyun City. At the same time, he told them about the encounter with the Frost Elite zombie soldiers on the way. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Jiang Zhen's expression became incomparably solemn. "Frost Elite zombie soldiers? That's the Sky River Imperial family's hidden trump card. I heard my master mention it by chance. It said that the Frost Elite zombie soldiers were left behind by the Sky River Great Dao Monarch. They even have the Dao Monarch's corpse poison on them." Hearing this, Yi Fei's hair stood on end. He never imagined that the Sky River Imperial family would use the Dao Monarch's corpse poison to deal with him. If he didn't have the dragon turtle and the poisonous dragon pearl that the dragon turtle had obtained, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yi Fei said in a low voice, "The Sky River Imperial family has begun to use unscrupulous methods. This Blackrock Peak is no longer safe. We'd better leave immediately." Yi Fei is right. This Blackrock Peak isn't suitable for us to break through to the sovereign realm. Lin Chen and Lin Gui didn't object. After all, breaking through to Dominator was a very important matter. They had to find an absolutely safe place. Only Jiangzhen was a little hesitant. "Isn't it a bit of a pity to abandon Blackrock Peak like this? After all, it wasn't easy for them to find a safe place to live." Yi Fei understood Jiangzhen's feelings. He consoled him solemnly, "Senior Jiang, don't worry. The day we break through to the ruler realm will be the day we return. But before I leave, I need you to do something for me." Although he had decided to leave, Yi Fei did not dare to let down his guard against the flying serpent that had escaped into the dark fog. Hence, he joined forces with Jiangzhen, Lin Chen and Lin Gui to set up several killing arrays at the entrance of the dark fog. At the same time, Yi Fei had the dragon turtle hide large amounts of demon poison dragon flame near the entrance. This way, even if they left Blackrock Peak, they wouldn't have to worry about the flying serpent escaping. After doing all this, Yi Fei and the others put on their bamboo hats and rushed down the mountain. At the same time, on the Blood Wolf Peak, the gang master, Sky Bloodwolf, had already gathered all of the Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns and loudly announced his plan to attack the Blackrock Peak and kill Yi Fei. As expected, this was opposed by many gang members. After all, the Bayun Nation's situation was very special. Not only were there many feudal lords, but the Bayun Divine Lord hadn't returned for 1,000 years. However, among the thousands of factions in the Bayun Nation, no one dared to break the rules set by the Bayun Divine Lord. When they heard that Blood Sky Wolf wanted to break the rules, the sovereigns were very worried. Blood Sky Wolf knew his subordinates very well. He didn't say anything. He just shouted, "Bring them up!" Chest after chest of treasures were placed in front of everyone. Madame Meng said, "Everyone who attacks Blackrock Peak will be rewarded with 5 million Xian stones. Anyone who can kill Yi Fei, Jiangzhen, Lin Chen, or Lin Gui will receive a Lord of Heaven pill." Blood Sky Wolf raised his arm and shouted. Below, the Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns were panting like hungry wolves. As the saying went, when there was a great reward, there would always be brave men. Moreover, the Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns were just like Blood Sky Wolf. They were all greedy people who forgot about righteousness at the sight of profit. Although the Bayun Divine Lord's iron rules couldn't be broken, under the temptation of the Lord of Heaven pill, the sovereigns' eyes all turned red. No one objected to Blood Sky Wolf's suggestion. On the contrary, the Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns were all filled with killing intent. They couldn't wait to attack Blackrock Peak. Seeing that he could use the morale of his troop, Blood Sky Wolf also struck while the iron was hot. He raised his arm and shouted again. Thus, the 14 sovereigns of the Blood Wolf Gang, except for one unlucky fellow who was forced to stay behind at Blood Wolf Peak because of his failure in drawing lots, the other 13 sovereigns, including Blood Sky Wolf himself, all rushed forward with killing intent. They charged toward Blackrock Peak with all their might. Yi Fei also ran into the Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns on the way. It wasn't that Yi Fei was a prophet and predicted that the Blood Wolf Gang would suddenly attack Blackrock Peak. After leaving Blackrock Peak, Lin Chen and Lin Gui thought that it was the safest place to break through to the Sovereign Realm. In fact, it was Green Cloud City. After all, Green Cloud City was within the Green Cloud Pavilion's sphere of influence. The Lord of Heaven was there as well. No matter how bold the Blood Wolf Gang was, they definitely wouldn't dare attack them in Green Cloud City. However, Lin Chen and Lin Gui had underestimated the Blood Wolf Gang's courage. Or rather, Madame Meng's courage. After discovering that the Han elite zombie soldiers couldn't kill Yi Fei, Madame Meng actually instigated the Blood Wolf Gang to openly break the iron rules set by the Bayun Divine Lord and attack Blackrock Peak directly. Yi Fei couldn't help but develop a strong desire to kill Madame Meng. If such a poisonous beauty wasn't eliminated, she would definitely become a huge hidden danger. What should we do? The Blood Wolf Gang is definitely going to take over Blackrock Peak. Since the Blood Wolf Gang has already broken the rules, even if we enter Green Cloud City, we won't be safe. Lin Chen and Lin Gui's faces turned completely pale. Yi Fei also shook his head. Although Lin Chen and Lin Gui were talented, they still lacked experience. Although the Blood Wolf Gang's aggressive momentum was frightening, it was also an opportunity for them to counterattack. The Blood Wolf Gang has a total of 15 sovereigns. Blood Wolf brought 14 with him. The Blood Wolf Peak is very empty right now. Yi Fei stroked his chin as he watched the Blood Wolf Gang sovereigns whizzing past the mountain. Since Xiao Chao had discovered them in advance, Yi Fei and the others were able to hide in advance. Blood Wolf and the other sovereigns didn't discover Yi Fei and the others. Instead, they were still ferociously charging towards Blackrock Peak, wanting to catch Yi Fei off guard. Since the Blood Wolf Gang had such intentions, how could Yi Fei swallow this humiliation? Before Lin Chen and Lin Gui could recover from their shock, Yi Fei had already looked at Jiangzhen and said with a smile, "Senior Jiang, our chance for revenge has come. Since Blood Wolf is attacking Blackrock Peak, Why don't we go to Blood Wolf Peak and destroy the Blood Wolf gang before Blood Wolf takes over Blackrock Peak? Chapter 2098. However, after carefully pondering over it, Jiang Zhen was shocked to discover that although Yi Fei's plan was bold, at this moment, the Blood Wolf gang was indeed at their weakest. If they could take advantage of this situation, they might really be able to exterminate the Blood Wolf gang and vent their anger. After all, ever since they entered the Bayou Nation, they had been harassed and suppressed by the Blood Wolf gang. Yi Fei and Jiang Zhen had been suppressing their anger for a long time. Now that they had a chance to vent their anger, Jiang Zhen would not give it up. Okay, count me in. Wait, Blood Wolf only left with the Juggernaut. A large group of heavenly venerables must be guarding the mountain. If they activate the defensive array in advance, the four of us might not even be able to break it, let alone kill our way up. At this moment, Lin Chen suddenly raised a sharp question. Yi Fei nodded. He felt that Lin Chen's words made sense. Although Blood Wolf was a despicable person, he was able to establish such a large Blood Wolf gang. He must have some ability and means. At this moment, the Blood Wolf gang's main force was out. If he were Blood Wolf, he would definitely strengthen the defense on Blood Wolf Peak to prevent the enemy from taking advantage of the loopholes. However, this opportunity was too rare. Yi Fei felt that it would be a pity to give it up. At this moment, the dragon turtle suddenly nudged Yi Fei's body, reminding him that Blood Wolf and the Juggernauts were far away. Looking at the dragon turtle, Yi Fei's eyes lit up. He patted the dragon turtle's head in a rare, amiable manner. He said, "Blackie, do you want to eat more magnetite?" Roar. Seeing the stingy Yi Fei suddenly become so generous, the dragon turtle retreated a few steps cautiously. Yi Fei was not angry. He carried the dragon turtle and ran in the direction of Blood Wolf Peak. Lin Gui immediately recalled his experience of being instantly poisoned by the dragon turtle, and the corner of his mouth immediately let out an incomparably cunning laugh. Haha, as expected of Brother Yi. With this turtle, it will be much easier for us to deal with the Blood Wolf Peak's celestial masters. Only Jiang Zhen and Lin Chen were baffled. They had never come into contact with the dragon turtle's poison. Naturally, they did not know how frightening the dragon turtle's lethality was. It was only after Lin Gui explained along the way that their spirits were lifted. There was no need for Yi Fei to say anything. The three of them had already thought of all sorts of evil ways to make use of the dragon turtle's poison. In the end, Lin Gui's skill was still better. He thought of an especially evil idea, which was to bring the dragon turtle directly to the sky not far from Blood Wolf Peak. Then, he would let the dragon turtle turn the poisonous fire into poisonous wind. With the help of the wind, a poisonous wind would blow across the entire Blood Wolf Peak at the fastest speed. This idea immediately received unanimous praise from Lin Chen and Jiang Zhen. Yi Fei shuddered. His original intention was to let the dragon turtle dig a hole up the mountain. In the end, these three guys actually came up with such a sinister idea. They actually asked the dragon turtle to release poison. From this, you can see that I'm a very pure person. Even if there are times when I'm not pure, it's because I've been led astray by others. Big Black, since everyone has high hopes for you, then you must not disappoint everyone. In fact, Yi Fei was somewhat curious and expectant about the dragon turtle releasing poison. He simply handed the dragon turtle to Jiang Zhen and the other two and let them do whatever they wanted. As for himself, he let Xiao Chao use the Heaven and Earth Spiritual Eye to investigate every movement on Blood Wolf Peak in advance, especially to check if Madame Meng was also on Blood Wolf Peak. But what disappointed Yi Fei was that Xiao Chao did not sense Madame Meng's profound energy fluctuation on the Snow Wolf Peak. On the contrary, Lin Gui, who was full of evil tricks, had already found the best spot to release the poisonous wind. Then, under the Lin brothers' generous promise, the dragon turtle once again turned from a little green turtle into a big poisonous turtle that was bigger than a mountain. In order to prevent the dragon turtle from being exposed prematurely, Jiang Zhen very carefully summoned a piece of white cloud to hide the dragon turtle. Behind the cloud, the dragon turtle, who had eaten its fill of the Lin brothers' profound stone, became spirited and opened its mouth to spit out a green poisonous wind that was like a volcanic eruption. Then, the billowing poisonous wind was released from the dragon pearl, causing the entire cloud layer to rapidly turn from white to green. Lin Chen and Lin Gui, who were close to the dragon turtle, only touched the tip of the wind and felt dizzy, as if they would fall down. The two brothers hurriedly retreated, and suddenly took out their divine spears at the same time. They shouted loudly and activated the strongest divine spear of fluttering snow, great snow wind and frost. The powerful ruler's divine ability immediately formed a violent snowstorm. Together with the poisonous wind that the dragon turtle spat out, it crashed down on the entire Blood Wolf Peak. The raging poisonous wind immediately swept across the entire Blood Wolf Peak, causing the Blood Wolf gang members who were guarding the mountain to instantly burst into an uproar. Not good, it's an enemy attack. Who is so bold to attack our Blood Wolf Peak? Hurry up and activate the defensive array. The Blood Wolf Peak's heavenly venerables reacted very quickly, but unfortunately, they were still a step too late. When the green cloud smashed onto the Blood Wolf Peak and exploded into countless wild currents that wreaked havoc on the Blood Wolf Peak, the Blood Wolf gang's heavenly venerables suddenly widened their eyes and straightened their bodies. Then they fell to the ground. As a large number of heavenly venerables were suddenly poisoned to the ground, the defensive array of the Blood Wolf Peak naturally couldn't be activated in a short period of time. In the sky, Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui, who had long since been prepared, shouted and rushed down the Blood Wolf Peak at the same time. Jiang Zhen, it's you. You're so shameless to actually use poison. A furious roar suddenly came from within the Blood Wolf Peak. The sovereign expert who had been left behind to guard the peak had been alarmed. This person had extremely rich defensive experience, but when he saw many of his subordinates being poisoned and the green currents wreaking havoc on the Blood Wolf Peak, he suddenly understood something and shouted in a deep voice, "Everyone, hold your breath and avoid the poisonous wind." Only then did the Blood Wolf gang members come to their senses and hurriedly circulate their Xian Qi in an attempt to shake off the poisonous wind around them. Yi Fei's expression suddenly changed. There's a capable person in the Blood Wolf gang. If he's allowed to gather the remaining heavenly venerables, this will definitely be a bloody battle. He won't have that chance. The moment he appears alone, he's already a dead man. Violent thunderous fluctuations suddenly appeared on Jiang Zhen's body. Then, his entire body turned into a bolt of lightning, exploding through the clouds as he rushed in front of the sovereign. The divine five thunders clock. In an instant, it transformed into a huge lightning shield that completely enveloped him and the sovereign. Jiang Zhen, how dare you attack the Blood Wolf Peak with just the four of you? The sovereign was shocked and angry. Knowing how terrifying Jiang Zhen was, he didn't dare to fight with Jiang Zhen. He only burned his fate wheel and erupted with all his strength in an attempt to break the divine five thunders clock and rush out of the Blood Wolf Peak. The wolf issued a warning. Unfortunately, facing the strongest sovereign, Jiang Zhen, he simply didn't have the chance to break the divine five thunders clock. Then, his sky palace, his fate wheel, and his divine soul were all shattered by Jiang Zhen's thunderous attack. He died a violent death. Chapter 2099. Yi Fei did not participate in the attack on Blood Wolf Peak. With Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui around, it was more than enough to deal with a group of heavenly venerables who did not have a ruler to lead them. Furthermore, there was still the dragon turtle in the sky, releasing poison with all its might. The ordinary heavenly venerables of the Blood Wolf gang were simply unable to withstand the poison. One by one, they fell to the ground and were slaughtered by Lin Chen and Lin Gui. The two brothers had no intention of showing mercy. Apart from their hatred for the Blood Wolf gang, it was also related to the composition of the Blood Wolf Gang. It turned out that there was a condition to join the Blood Wolf Gang. That was, one had to be a bandit or a bandit who killed countless people. This also made the Blood Wolf Gang notorious among the various powers of the Bayou Nation. Since they had decided to completely annihilate the Blood Wolf Gang, the Lin brothers naturally would not let these evil heavenly venerables off. As a result, the entire Blood Wolf Peak quickly became a blood-stained peak. At this time, Yi Fei successfully found the location of the Blood Wolf Gang's treasury with Xiao Chao's help. However, this treasury did not contain the large amount of magnetite that Yi Fei had hoped for. Instead, it was very spacious and empty. There were very few treasures. That's strange. Didn't Lin Chun say that Xue Tianlang was a bandit who killed countless people? He should have accumulated a lot of treasures over the years. Why are there so few treasures here? Yi Fei looked at the items left in the treasury. They were all basic Shunli Dan and Law pills. This clearly did not match Xue Tianlang's status. He also did not know that before he came, Xue Tianlang had already exchanged a large amount of treasures in the treasury for magnetite and rewarded them to his subordinates in order to break the rules and attack Black Rock Peak. Even so, Yi Fei was still very dissatisfied with this treasury. After all, the reason he had attacked Blood Wolf Peak was because he wanted to go all out. Xiao Chao continued to sense. I don't believe that such a large Blood Wolf Gang only has so few cultivation resources. Yi Fei said with a dark expression. Xiao Chao's face also darkened. Immediately, he tried even harder to open his heaven and earth spiritual eye to explore the entire Blood Wolf Peak. Then, Xiao Chao's eyes suddenly lit up. He jumped out of the beast mark space and ran towards a direction with his short legs. In that direction, Yi Fei discovered a very inconspicuous cave. It was empty inside, but there were many powerful formations set up inside. It was obviously very abnormal. When he broke through these formations and entered the cave, a mysterious space actually appeared inside. That was the sovereign space, which was filled with all sorts of treasures. In fact, Yi Fei even discovered 10 porcelain bottles. Each bottle contained a sovereign divine pill. But this was not what shocked Yi Fei. What really shocked him was that he found a profound vein pagoda in this space. There were actually a total of 15,000 profound veins in the space inside the pagoda. Oh my God, more than 10,000! This famous bandit is actually so rich? Yi Fei and Xiao Chao were completely stunned. But soon, Yi Fei was ecstatic again. Although they had successfully attacked Blood Wolf Peak, he was still at a loss as to what to do next. But the discovery of these profound veins gave Yi Fei a huge hope of quickly breaking through to the sovereign realm. These profound veins are very likely the chips the imperial family used to bribe Blood Skywolf. They are also my biggest hope of breaking through to the sovereign realm. Originally, to break through to the sovereign realm, it would take at least a few months or even a few years. This was because ordinary heavenly venerables simply could not find a large number of profound veins to consume. But Yi Fei was different. He had a total of 15,000 profound veins in his hand. This was a typical example of wealth. This gave Yi Fei the confidence to break through to the sovereign realm in an extremely short period of time. Not only that, Yi Fei's golden body of laws had 2 conditions to break through to the second level. First, he needed to have 2 levels of laws. Second, he needed to have at least 10,000 profound veins to raise his golden body of laws to the second level. And the second level of the golden body of law's defensive power was already able to withstand the attack of the Lord of Heaven. Attack. There are 9 levels in heaven and earth, and there are also 9 levels of laws. What I comprehended before was only 1 level of laws. If I want to break through to the sovereign realm, I need to raise the first level of laws to the second level. Moreover, the more level 2 laws I have in my sovereign fate wheel, the stronger the battle power of a sovereign realm. Why was the Divine Star Academy known as the strongest sovereign realm? This was because the sovereign fate wheel formed by the 9 revolutions divine star art could withstand 9 levels of level 2 laws. Ordinary sovereign cultivation techniques could only form 3 to 5 levels. Some crudely formed sovereign fate wheels could only withstand 1 or 2 levels of level 2 laws. Not only would their battle power be low, but they would also have no possibility of forming a heavenly bridge and breaking through to the Lord of Heaven. When Yi Fei thought of this, he was even more determined to break through to the sovereign realm. Only by breaking through to the sovereign realm would he be able to gain a firm foothold in the Baiyu nation. Only by breaking through to the sovereign realm would he be able to develop his forces with peace of mind. He would also take the opportunity to gather information about Zhao Yu and the others. Only by breaking through to the sovereign realm would he be able to think of a solution. Returning to the Earth domain would allow more Earth domain cultivators to enter the Heaven domain. Now I will break through to the sovereign realm. Yi Fei's expression became unprecedentedly determined. The moment he retrieved his Xiao Qiao, he had already walked into the space within the Xian lineage pagoda. Inside, countless Xian veins formed Xian Qi dragons that roared and danced unconsciously. At this moment, Yi Fei was sitting cross-legged in the middle of this group of Xian Qi dragons. Suddenly, he activated the 9 revolutions divine star art. Yi Fei's body suddenly lit up like a star or a burning torch. The Xian Qi dragons that danced unconsciously sensed this star-like radiance and immediately cried out in joy. They were like flames and tides that surged towards Yi Fei. In the end, Yi Fei didn't even know if he was refining these Xian Qi dragons or if these Xian Qi dragons were trying to refine him. There were simply too many Xian veins in the Xian lineage pagoda. Yi Fei also didn't know that some of these Xian veins were the deposit that Madame Meng used to bribe Xue Tianlang. The majority of these Xian veins were Xue Tianlang's lifetime of hard work and hard work. They were also Xue Tianlang's greatest reliance when he was preparing to break through to the Lord of Heaven in the future. In the end, Xue Tianlang didn't use this hard work. Instead, it was completely ruined by his enemy Yi Fei. As a large amount of Xian Qi was absorbed and refined by the 9 revolutions divine star art, Yi Fei's entire body became more and more like a bright star. Then, the invisible starlight formed a torrent that broke through Yi Fei's heavenly venerate barrier and rushed into Yi Fei's heavenly palace. It shone on Yi Fei's emperor's throne and divine soul. Boom! When the light reached its peak, Yi Fei suddenly took out the sovereign god's pill and swallowed it. Suddenly, there was a loud boom in his body. The terrifying medicinal power of the sovereign god's pill immediately turned into another mysterious force. Under this mysterious force, the starlight that surged into the heavenly palace suddenly condensed. It shone and formed a large round disk that was like a bright moon that hung above Yi Fei's heavenly palace. This round disk was the wheel of destiny that one had to condense to become a sovereign. It was also called the Wheel of Destiny. It controlled Yi Fei's life and also Yi Fei's fate. Chapter 2100. I currently have too many level 1 laws, but the strongest ones are the Law of Sword and the Law of Thunder. Although the Law of Sword is more compatible with my Sword Dao, I don't have a strong Sword Dao Dominator's ability at the moment. Therefore, the first thing I need to improve is not the Law of Sword Dao, but the Law of Thunder. The Law of Thunder. After all, the strongest Dominator's ability that Yi Fei currently possessed was the Divine Star Academy's 5 Thunders Divine Clock. And if Yi Fei wanted to unleash the true power of this ability, he had to comprehend the second level of the Law of Thunder. Thinking of this, Yi Fei no longer hesitated. He fiercely activated the 9 revolutions divine star art. At this moment, his entire body turned into a mysterious star that was crazily rotating. It was also this star that caused the law light in Yi Fei's body to burn like a raging fire. And among them, There was a ray of sword Dao divine light and a ray of thunder divine light that was especially dazzling. Without caring about that ray of sword Dao divine light, Yi Fei focused all his attention on the law of thunder. The 9 revolutions divine star art was activated to the limit in his body at this moment. Suddenly, the law of thunder was sucked into the vortex. Rumble! Countless bolts of lightning suddenly appeared within the entire profound veins pagoda. These bolts of lightning, under the effect of the 9 revolutions divine star art, continuously split apart. From one lightning law, a second, a third. Every time the divine star art completed a cycle, the number of lightning laws within Yi Fei's heavenly palace would increase. There would be one more. And every time these law of thunder were formed, it would consume hundreds of profound veins. This kind of consumption was not something that an ordinary Empyrean warrior could bear. But thanks to the 15,000 profound veins that Blood Sky Wolf had collected, Yi Fei did not have to worry about the consumption of his profound veins. Therefore, the law of thunder that would have taken a few days or even more to cultivate was condensing at a speed visible to the naked eye. And just as these law of thunder split into 9, there was a loud bang. The fate wheel that was originally floating above the sky palace turned into a strange vortex that completely absorbed and swallowed the 9 law of thunder. 9 thunder transformations, 9 revolutions divine star art. Second level law, condense for me. Boom! Following Yi Fei's roar, the 9 thunder precepts that had been swallowed into the fate wheel in the sky palace suddenly merged into one, forming a new and stronger thunder rune that was branded on the fate wheel. Yi Fei's fate wheel instantly emitted dazzling lightning. His aura also rose from the heavenly venerate realm to the sovereign realm. Sovereign aura? How could Blood Wolf Peak still have a sovereign? Could it be that Yi Fei broke through to the sovereign level? On Blood Wolf Peak, Lin Chun and Lin Gui were bathed in blood. Around them were hundreds of corpses from the Blood Wolf gang. Jiang Zhen raised his head and looked in the direction of the cave with some surprise. He smiled bitterly and said, "This kid, it was already surprising that he could conquer Blood Wolf Peak. Who would have thought that Yi Fei would break through to Dominator so quickly? This time, Blood Sky Wolf is probably going to die from anger." Thinking about Xue Tianlang, Jiang Zhen, and the other 2, who should have already arrived at Black Rock Peak with their men, suddenly felt pity for him. Black Rock Peak. Blood Sky Wolf didn't know that his lair had been completely destroyed. Even his precious Xian vein had been destroyed by Yi Fei. The first thing Blood Sky Wolf did when he arrived at Blood Wolf Peak was to charge into the medicine hall on the peak and try to kill Yi Fei. Unfortunately, the Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns only saw an empty medicine hall. What's going on? Did the news leak? A Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns had a malicious expression. It's impossible for the news to leak. There are only 4 of them. They don't have the ability to plant a spy in our Blood Wolf Gang. If it were me, I would definitely choose a safe place to break through to the sovereign realm after obtaining the sovereign pill. That's why they abandoned the mountain. Blood Sky Wolf said confidently. He was an experienced man after all. He was actually able to deduce Yi Fei's initial motive almost instantly. The other Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns' expressions turned even uglier. They all said, they abandoned Black Rock Peak. There's only one safe place they could have gone to, Green Cloud City. Damn it, they went to Green Cloud City. That's Green Cloud Pavilion's territory. We can't do anything to them in the city. Blood Sky Wolf was suddenly enraged. He had risked everything to attack Black Rock Peak. It was his last gamble. If he still couldn't kill Yi Fei, even if he escaped to the Tianhe Kingdom, he wouldn't be put in an important position by the Tianhe royal family. Blood Sky Wolf's eyes flashed fiercely. That guy surnamed Yi is indeed cunning. Unfortunately, I'm not a pushover either. Before they enter Green Cloud City, quickly set up a teleportation array. Let's rush to the outskirts of Green Cloud City and ambush them. Our gang leader is wise. Haha, No matter how cunning that demon Yi is, he definitely wouldn't expect us to prepare a teleportation array to kill them in advance. I reckon that Yi Fei is still dreaming of breaking through to the sovereign realm. Seeing that Blood Sky Wolf had brought along a teleportation array, the Blood Wolf Gang's sovereigns laughed maniacally. Only Blood Sky Wolf didn't laugh. This was because he had prepared this teleportation array to escape from the Baiyun Kingdom. Now that he had been forced to use it in advance, Blood Sky Wolf's heart was filled with displeasure. Blood Sky Wolf was extremely unhappy. Wait until we kill that guy outside the city. I'll definitely chop him into pieces with my own hands. Let's go. Blood Sky Wolf roared loudly. Then, the mountain peak flashed with the light of the teleportation array. Soon, it became quiet again. Black Rock Peak became dead silent again. In this silence, Blood Sky Wolf, who had been teleported away, walked out of the shadows with a gloomy face. It turned out that only one of his subordinates had teleported away. He and most of the sovereigns hadn't left. They had been hiding in the dark. After half a day, when the sky began to brighten, there was still no sign of Yi Fei and the others. Blood Sky Wolf's face darkened. It looks like that guy has indeed abandoned the mountain to escape. He wants to hide in Qingyun City. Let's go. We'll chase after him immediately. Even though they had been delayed for half a day, Blood Sky Wolf was still confident that he could successfully kill Yi Fei before Yi Fei entered Qingyun City. After all, no matter how fast a martialist was, he couldn't be faster than a teleportation array. However, Blood Sky Wolf didn't know that when he left Black Rock Peak with his men, a venomous snake head suddenly emerged from the dense fog that covered half of the herb field. Damn humans! You stole my dragon ball, broke my snake body, and ambushed me with so many people. You want to scheme against me, the Snake King? Just you wait. Soon, I'll kill all of you. The flying serpent's eyes flashed with a shocking light of hatred. However, when it saw the earth spirit rats under its control all being poisoned to death or killed by the formation not long after stepping outside, the flying serpent's eyes still flashed with intense fear and unwillingness. Snakes were vengeful by nature, and they were even more cautious. Chapter 2101. Then, the head of the flying serpent sank into the dark fog and disappeared again. At the same time, Blood Sky Wolf led his group of rulers through the teleportation platform and quickly appeared outside Qingyun City. At the same time, Blood Sky Wolf sent someone to contact Madame Meng and ask her to use her connections with Gao Yu to tell Qingyun Pavilion not to interfere for the time being. In order to kill Yi Fei as soon as possible and obtain the legendary Lord of Heaven Pill, the rulers of the Blood Wolf Gang were in high spirits. Not only did they set up layers of killing arrays on the path through Qingyun City, they also set up spatial traps. Then, they hid in the traps and waited patiently. They waited patiently, hoping to catch Yi Fei off guard. When he thought about how Yi Fei could kill Yi Fei with his own hands and feed Yi Fei to the dogs, Blood Sky Wolf was even more pleased with himself. Now, he was looking forward to Yi Fei's expression of fear and shock when he realized that he had been ambushed. Unfortunately, Blood Sky Wolf did not see the scene he was looking forward to. Instead, he and a dozen of his subordinates waited outside for an entire day. They waited for the sun to rise and set, and waited for the moon to bloom, but they did not even see Yi Fei's shadow. Could it be that the gang leader guessed wrongly? That kid didn't come to Qingyun City after abandoning the mountain and escaping? Some of the rulers could not help but mutter in their hearts. Although Heavenly Blood Wolf did not speak, his livid face clearly told everyone that he was extremely angry at this time. Report. Gang leader, bad news. That Yi Fei suddenly attacked Blood Wolf Peak while we were on our way to Black Rock Peak and captured our peak. Only one of the hundreds of gang members escaped by luck. Although Lin Chun and Lin Gui's massacre was bloody, the Blood Wolf Gang was a large gang with hundreds of people. Although most of the villains were killed, there was still one who was good at playing dead. He managed to escape by luck and sneaked out of Blood Wolf Peak when Lin Chen and the others were most relaxed. Wolf Peak hurriedly reported to the rulers under its command. What? Our Blood Wolf Peak has been captured? That's impossible. I've left hundreds of people on the mountain to guard it. There's also a defensive formation that can hold the mountain for at least 10 days. There are only 4 of them. How could they capture the Blood Wolf Mountains so quickly without us receiving any news? Blood Sky Wolf said. Their first reaction was disbelief and suspicion that this was a false military report. The sovereign said miserably, "Gang leader, it's not 4, it's 5. They found a poisonous tortoise from who knows where. That tortoise really isn't a good thing. It poisoned half of my Blood Wolf gang members. How could we have time to activate the defensive formation? So you're saying that Blood Wolf Peak has really fallen?" The sovereigns looked at each other, feeling like they were in a nightmare. They were originally full of confidence and wanted to kill Yi Fei. However, Yi Fei took the opportunity to destroy their base and made them wait here. Many people subconsciously looked at Blood Sky Wolf. At this moment, Blood Sky Wolf's face was red, white, green, and purple. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore. He looked up at the sky and roared with extreme anger, "Yi Fei, if I don't kill you, I swear that I'm not a man. I swear that I'm not a man. Oh no, my 15,000 Xian veins are still in my cave. I forgot to take them away." Blood Sky Wolf screamed. His voice was heart-wrenching and filled with endless hatred. At this moment, Blood Sky Wolf was extremely angry and full of hatred. In the end, it became a deep resentment. "Everyone, follow me back to Blood Wolf Peak to kill Yi Fei." Boom. Another teleportation platform was taken out by Blood Sky Wolf. Obviously, Blood Sky Wolf didn't bring the Xian Vein Pagoda with him because he already had a lot of teleportation platforms. As the saying goes, a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Blood Sky Wolf was able to kill people as a bandit and establish the huge Blood Wolf gang. Not to mention other things, he was very good at escaping. However, Blood Sky Wolf didn't take out the teleportation platform to escape. Instead, he flew into a rage and was ready to chase after Yi Fei. He wanted to get back those Xian veins that were as important as his own life. "Innate God Demon, please don't let that kid ruin my Xian veins." When he was teleported out, not only was Blood Sky Wolf's face green, but his intestines were also green. On Blood Wolf Peak, the dragon turtle was showing off. It was very proud of itself as it condensed a water mirror and looked at its black turtle shell that had become glossy and smooth again. After releasing the poisonous wind for half a day, the dragon turtle finally succeeded in releasing the excess poison that had accumulated in its body. The color of its turtle shell also returned to normal. Jiang Zhen and Lin Chen were scolding Lin Gui. Lin Gui was careless and didn't notice that someone had faked his death. He had almost let the culprit escape down the mountain. Although Jiang Zhen had acted in time and killed the culprit. Before that person died, he had sent out the news of Blood Wolf Peak's fall through the sound-transmitting mirror. "Senior Jiang, Lin Chen, stop scolding me. Let's run now. It will be too late if Blood Sky Wolf comes back with a large group of sovereigns." Lin Gui was also blaming himself, but now wasn't the time to blame himself. The reason why the 4 of them dared to attack Blood Wolf Peak was because Blood Sky Wolf had left with a large group of sovereigns and their rear was weak. For this reason, they had set up a sound-transmitting array in advance. However, due to Lin Gui's carelessness, he had forgotten to check if anyone on Blood Wolf Peak was faking his death when he removed the sound-transmitting array. Blood Sky Wolf and his group of sovereigns will be back at any moment, but Yi Fei is still cultivating. No, we can't wait any longer. Lin Chen, Lin Gui, inform Yi Fei immediately and tell him to end his cultivation. We will leave now. Boom! A huge explosion suddenly came from Blood Wolf Peak. It was a huge portal of light that landed on the mountain peak. Then, Blood Sky Wolf and a group of sovereigns roared and charged out fiercely. When they came out, they saw the scene of blood flowing like a river. Hundreds of fierce-looking Blood Wolf gang members were all killed on the spot. All the valuable treasures on the mountain peak were completely looted by Lin Chen and the others and piled up in the open space. Ah, that's my favorite luminous spear. In order to get it, I killed my master and his entire family of 50 people. I had no choice but to escape to the Bayou Nation. And my white jade dragon bed, that's for the king's residence. In order to get it, I even killed my own brother by accident. Not good, Yang Qi said. I still have a sovereign lord's divine ability in my room. Don't tell me they found it too. Kill them. Kill them all. Chapter 2102. Kill. My Xian Meridians, my Xian Meridians. Xue Tianlang roared. He didn't care about Jiangzhen, nor did he take the opportunity to kill Lin Chen and Lin Gui, who were still in the celestial venerate realm. He just charged toward the cave as fast as he could, toward the ruler's space. Clang! On top of Blood Wolf Peak, a melodious bell chime could be heard. Jiangzhen's 5 Thunders divine bell suddenly grew in size, forming a special bell world that was about to envelop Blood Skywolf and the other sovereigns. Lin Chen, Lin Gui, tell Yi Fei to run. I'll cover you. Jiangzhen, you're just a coward. How can you block the might of a pack of wolves? Take the corpse god pill and kill him for this gang master. Chop his corpse into 1,000 pieces. No, even tearing him to pieces isn't enough to vent my anger. I'll tear him to pieces with my own hands. That damned demon Yi! My Xian Meridians! Xue Tianlang let out a heart-wrenching scream. He had used his consciousness to sense the Xian Meridian's tower, but he couldn't sense it. Even the ruler's space had disappeared. Xue Tianlang was so angry that his eyes turned red. Next, he popped a medicinal pill into his mouth. At the same time, rumbling sounds like a volcano erupting could be heard from inside of Heaven Bloodwolf. His sovereign aura surged, and he shattered Jiangzhen's 5 lightnings god clock with his bare hands. Then, he shot toward the cave like lightning. Lin Chen's expression changed. Oh no, these rulers have taken the corpse divine pill from the imperial family of the Sky River. They're going to have the power and defense of corpse soldiers. The divine corpse pill was a special kind of pill. It was able to temporarily use the source of the corpse soldiers on a living person. This was similar to how Yi Fei had used the undying sword spirit to refine the baleful energy, allowing him to explode with strength that far exceeded his own cultivation level. The corpse divine pill's effect wasn't as exaggerated as the undying sword soul, which allowed Yi Fei to temporarily possess the power of the Lord of Heaven after devouring the baleful energy of the Lord of Heaven. However, a single corpse god pill could increase a ruler's battle prowess by 5 to 10 times in a short period of time. Such an elixir was extremely precious even to the imperial family of the Sky River. If not for the fact that Yi Fei could not be killed without breaking the rules of the Bayou Nation, Madame Meng would not have risked everything and given such a precious elixir to Xue Tianlang. Under the buff of the corpse god pill, the leaders of the Blood Wolf gang suddenly became unstoppable. They continuously broke through the divine bell and charged towards Jiangzhen. In a short period of time, Jiangzhen was flustered. He could only use the divine bell to envelop him, Lin Chen and Lin Gui, forcing them to die. Guard. However, Jiangzhen was still the strongest dominator. Even though he was surrounded by more than 10 dominators who had consumed the corpse god pill, his defense was impenetrable for a short period of time. It was only when he saw the bloody sky wolf about to rush into the cave that Jiangzhen's expression changed and he roared, "Yi Fei, hurry up and run! Rumble!" His voice rumbled like thunder and penetrated the entire Blood Wolf Peak. At this critical juncture, Jiangzhen did not care if his actions would disturb Yi Fei's cultivation and cause him to go berserk. Inside the Dominator's space, Yi Fei heard Jiangzhen's roar and sensed more than 10 powerful Dominator auras outside. He opened his eyes abruptly and purple lightning flashed in them. Second-level golden body of laws is indeed difficult to cultivate. However, thanks to these 10,000 Xian veins, I finally succeeded. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Yi Fei calmly walked out of the Dominator's space. Countless bolts of lightning appeared on his body. As Yi Fei had advanced to the second level of the Law of Lightning, his body was now filled with endless lightning-attributed Xian Qi. This caused Yi Fei's golden body of laws to become similar to the golden body of lightning. Yi Fei, you actually broke through to the Dominator realm. You actually ruined my Xian veins. Xue Tianlang charged into the cave in rage. However, he was greeted by the sight of Yi Fei, who exuded the aura of a Dominator. Xue Tianlang was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of old blood that flew more than 10 meters away, almost touching Yi Fei. Above, Ghost Wolf Divine Claw. Xue Tianlang was enraged. His corpse aura swirled around him, as if he had become a Dominator corpse soldier with a complete consciousness. He condensed the Ghost Wolf Divine Claw, and its sharp light tore the void apart. It even tore the Dominator's space in half. Boom! The destructive energy of the Dominator's space formed a new attack. It crazily squeezed and twisted Yi Fei, as if it wanted to destroy Yi Fei along with the Dominator's space. However, Yi Fei's body did not move an inch. Endless lightning flashed on his body like purple gold flames, burning fiercely. It was at this point that Yi Fei made his move. Empty-handed, he stomped his foot in front of him, unleashing the pressure of a sovereign, which caused the space around him to crumble. 5 thunders, divine clock, Yi Fei shouted coldly. Facing the incoming Ghost Wolf Divine Claw, he formed a seal with both hands, forming the shape of a clock. Suddenly, he pushed it forward. With a loud bang, Yi Fei's entire body was covered in lightning. He turned into a huge thunder divine clock and smashed it towards Xue Tianlang's body. Has this bastard gone mad? Has he gone mad? Xue Tianlang was completely stunned by Yi Fei's attack, which ignored his opponent's mystique and attacked with his life. How could he know how terrifying the second level of the golden body of laws was? Especially the second level of the golden body of laws. Yi Fei had integrated a single lightning bolt into his body. This gave Yi Fei a certain amount of recoilability when he had a strong defense. No matter how Xue Tianlang's Ghost Wolf Divine Claw landed on his body, Yi Fei's Divine 5 Lightning Clock also smashed onto Xue Tianlang's body. Originally, this should have been a situation where both sides would be injured. However, in the face of the second level of the golden body of laws, Yi Fei was as immovable as a mountain. He was as valiant as a fiend god clad in lightning armor. On the other hand, Xue Tianlang was sent flying by the Divine 5 Lightning Clock. One of his arms was smashed by the Divine 5 Lightning Clock. He didn't die. Yi Fei's eyebrows twitched. Wasn't the Divine Star Academy the strongest Dominator? Originally, he thought that he could easily kill Xue Tianlang after breaking through to the Dominator level. How could he know that Madame Meng had prepared so many trump cards to deal with him? Not only did she give Xue Tianlang advice, but she also gave him the Divine Corpse Pill, which was exclusive to the imperial family of the Sky River. Ah, little bastard, you ruined my Xian meridians and broke my arm. Today, I will fight it out with you. A dignified late-stage Dominator was actually unable to defeat a country bumpkin who had just broken through. Furthermore, he had consumed the Divine Corpse Pill, which greatly increased his combat strength. Xue Tianlang was so angry that the blood in his body started to burn. In his fury, Xue Tianlang's hands suddenly turned into terrifying wolf claws that tore through space. Dense rays of light tore through space and shot towards Yi Fei. Ghost Wolf Wind-Ripping Hand. Divine 5 Lightning Clock. Boom! Chapter 2103. Boom! Boom! Within the mountain cave, Yi Fei's silhouette was unceasingly clashing with Xue Tianlang. The two divine bells were like bolts of lightning, causing countless cracks to appear in the cave. This caused Xue Tianlong's heart to tremble. Although he knew that the sovereigns of the Divine Star Academy were the strongest, he didn't expect them to be so powerful. At this stage, Yi Fei had just broken through to the sovereign realm. If Yi Fei continued to break through, wouldn't he be in trouble? No, I can't fight with this kid in the cave. Xue Tianlang was, after all, a veteran of the underworld. Although his martial mystique was inferior to Yi Fei's, he had plenty of experience in the underworld. He roared when he realized that he was no match for Yi Fei. His strong sovereign realm aura suddenly turned into an invisible storm, trying to push Yi Fei back. Then, he rushed out of the cave and gathered more subordinates to attack Yi Fei. Kill. Yi Fei's expression was cold. Seeing that Xue Tianlang was retreating, he immediately ignited his heavenly palace and activated his fate wheel. The terrifying aura of the heavenly law filled Yi Fei's body, making the five thunders divine clock in his hand even more terrifying. The violent roar made the cave explode. Xue Tianlang was blown away by the terrifying explosion. He spat out a mouthful of blood in midair. His sorry state was exposed in front of his subordinate. What's going on? Did the faction leader go to deal with Yi Fei? Why was the faction leader suddenly sent flying? Oh my God, this is too terrifying. Could it be that Yi Fei has also broken through to the sovereign realm? Someone seemed to have realized something at this moment. Then, they saw a figure that looked like a purple-gold godly demon with lightning wrapped around his body rush out of the broken cave. Just as Bloody Sky Wolf spat out blood, the figure rushed out. Boom! The five thunders divine clock in Yi Fei's hands suddenly exploded with a blazing ball of lightning. The five thunders divine clock in Yi Fei's hands turned into two terrifying thunder hammers. They continuously smashed forward, and there was a continuous explosion. Wherever the hammers passed, they seemed to be more destructive than the divine clock. When the two hammers smashed down, the Blood Sky Wolf let out a miserable shriek that was worse than a pig being slaughtered. Even though he had consumed a corpse god pill, he couldn't block Yi Fei's terrifying ruler god ability after breaking through to ruler level. In particular, Yi Fei's golden body of the second level of the rule of law could only be broken by the Lord of Heaven. Bloody Sky Wolf had neither the Lord of Heaven's realm nor the supernatural power of the Lord of Heaven. Faced with Yi Fei's extremely terrifying thunderhammer, there was only one outcome for him, which was that his sky palace was finally broken after a dozen consecutive strikes. The fate wheel sank. At this moment, the Thunder Warhammer in Yi Fei's hand suddenly transformed from a warhammer to a heavy sword. When he held the two heavy swords with both hands, a shocking sword aura suddenly appeared, making Yi Fei look like a god in the middle of a heavenly tribulation. Every move he made was filled with the might of the heavenly Tao. Every move he made could dictate the fate of others. Lin Chen and Lin Gui, who were hiding in the divine clock world, only saw Yi Fei raise the two heavy swords and stab one into the Blood Sky Wolf's throat and the other into the Blood Sky Wolf's soul. The late-stage ruler Blood Wolf Gang leader's eyes widened. Soon, he turned into an ice-cold corpse and fell from the sky. The Lin brothers couldn't believe their eyes. Bloody Sky Wolf is dead, and he was beaten to death by Yi Fei. Is the Divine Five Thunders clock really this terrifying? Jiang Zhen smiled bitterly. How is this Divine Five Thunders clock? This kid, how long has it been since he learned it? He actually changed the Divine Five Thunders clock without permission. Originally, the Divine Five Thunders clock was a divine clock. However, Yi Fei changed the shape of the divine clock without permission. First, it turned into a thunder hammer, then it turned into a heavy sword. It was even stronger and more ferocious than the original Divine Five Thunders clock. Perhaps this is the difference between a genius and an ordinary person. Ordinary martial artists like us can only cultivate divine abilities step by step. However, a genius like Yi Fei can create something on the basis of cultivation. He can completely turn the divine Five Thunders clock into a martial art that belongs solely to him. Jiang Jin sighed. Lin Chen and Lin Gui suddenly became very depressed as well. That was because the three of them were unable to reach Yi Fei's level. They could only cultivate martial arts, but they were unable to comprehend by analogy and create martial arts like Yi Fei. Dead, the gang leader is dead. Demon Yi killed the gang leader and destroyed the Blood Wolf gang. We can't hold on any longer. Let's run. The group of dominators from the Blood Wolf gang were a motley crew. When they were fighting a favorable battle, each of them was fiercer than the other. Just now, a dozen of them had joined forces and almost destroyed the defense of Jiang Zhen's divine clock and killed the three of them. However, when they saw Yi Fei kill the late-stage dominator Blood Sky Wolf with his strength of an early-stage dominator, the dominators from the Blood Wolf gang lost their will to fight to the death. They all retreated, wanting to preserve their strength and let the others fight to the death. As expected, the dominators from the Blood Wolf gang all collapsed. They all wanted to charge out of Blood Wolf Peak with all their might. Kill! However, before they could charge out, Yi Fei's figure suddenly turned into a terrifying bolt of lightning. In a few breaths, he reached the two dominators closest to him. Boom! Crack! The heavy sword of lightning pierced the bodies of the two dominators like a bayonet, shattering their fate wheels. Then, the terrifying lightning blasted their fragile souls into smithereens. Kill! Seeing Yi Fei's strength, Jiang Zhen no longer had to passively defend himself. His eyes turned red as he vented all the anger he had suppressed. A huge divine clock, as big as heaven and earth, enveloped several dominators. As the strongest dominator, Jiang Zhen might not be as talented as Yi Fei, who could create martial arts. However, he could focus on using the martial arts he had mastered to the fullest extent. This huge divine clock was the ultimate evolution of Jiang Zhen's divine Five Thunderbolts clock. In the face of such a mystique, Jiang Zhen could easily take on four of them by himself. When he saw Jiang Zhen's actions, Yi Fei was also tempted. The heavy sword of lightning in his hand suddenly emitted a dazzling light. This light was like a demonic sun or a divine moon. Yi Fei even had the illusion that if he continued to create his own mystique, he might be able to create a mystique unique to himself. A dominator mystique. Boom! Chapter 2104. It was a pity that the remaining Blood Wolf gang sovereigns didn't know that Yi Fei was able to suppress the late Blood Sky Wolf even though he was only in the early stages of the Blood Wolf gang. The Divine Star Academy had the strongest sovereigns. But more importantly, Yi Fei had the second level of the Golden Body of Laws. This was a supreme mystical ability that could withstand the attacks of heaven monarchs. When Yi Fei executed it, Yi Fei wouldn't be afraid even if there were twice as many sovereigns, let alone 4 or 5 at the same time. As long as their attacks don't reach the level of the Lord of Heaven, they can forget about breaking through my golden body's defense. Die. Boom. Spear light filled the sky and lightning flashed. The heavy thunder sword in Yi Fei's hands suddenly turned into 2 thunder god spears. Then, he held the spears with both hands and stabbed out continuously. Every time his spear light pierced out, it was accompanied by boundless lightning. In the end, the lightning transformed into a snowstorm that filled the sky. Then, 2 spears struck the 2 closest sovereigns, killing them in midair. Lin Chen and Lin Gui widened their eyes in shock. They were both disciples of the Lin family, so they naturally recognized that Yi Fei was using the divine spear Fluttering Snow, the strongest technique of the Lin family. There was also the dual spear divine ability. However, they used the blizzard, while Yi Fei used the lightning and thunder. The 2 techniques were similar, but the martial way they contained was fundamentally different. It wasn't enough that he modified the divine 5 lightning clock. He even modified our Lin family's spear divine ability. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were both dejected from the blow. As for the Blood Wolf Gang sovereigns who were directly facing Yi Fei's dual spear divine ability, they were all sweating profusely. One of the sovereigns even let out a furious roar. He had originally planned to secretly escape while the others were attacking Yi Fei, but as soon as he landed, a black pig suddenly appeared from the ground. The pig pretended to trip on a rock. Then, the pig spat out a dragon pearl that was shaped like a dragon's tooth and bit the sovereign's leg. Instantly, the powerful sovereign's body turned green as he was poisoned and fell to the ground. Kill. Soon after, the ecstatic voices of the Lin brothers came from the sky not far away. Seeing that they could take advantage of the situation, the two brothers immediately joined forces and worked together with the dragon turtle to quickly kill the unlucky sovereign. How could this be? What is Blood Sky Wolf doing? How many benefits and treasures did our Sky River Imperial family give him? How could he be defeated by a small force of 4 people? Not only was the entire Blood Wolf Peak occupied, but he also suffered heavy casualties and is on the verge of collapse. In the distant sky, a luxurious airship was flying over. Madame Meng was standing on the airship, watching everything in disbelief. Baida and Bai Er couldn't believe what they were seeing, but it was the truth. In a daze, they once again recalled their experience in the Qi Manor. Back then, the Imperial clan had recruited Yi Fei. Originally, they were 90% sure that they would succeed. If Yi Fei had resisted, he would have certainly been beheaded and his entire clan would have been exterminated. However, at that time, Yi Fei had used 1 man and 1 sword to perform a shocking reversal. 1 man and 1 sword to kill. He had killed King Qi and escaped from the Qi Manor. And this time, Yi Fei had broken through Blood Wolf Peak with just 4 people, broke through to the sovereign level, and killed Blood Sky Wolf. For some reason, when Baida and Bai Er looked at Yi Fei again, they felt a deep sense of fear and respect. At this moment, a cold laugh came from behind them. Isn't it just killing a sovereign? Look at how scared you are. Madame Meng, don't worry. As long as I, Gao Yu, am here, no one can harm you in the Baiyun nation. The person who spoke was a young man dressed in luxurious purple robes. His name was Gao Yu, a direct descendant of the Clear Cloud Pavilion's Gao family. He was young but already had the cultivation of a sovereign. This was why Madame Meng had befriended him. If such a person was willing to take care of her, then no matter how many rules she broke in the Baiyun nation, her life wouldn't be in danger. Hearing Gao Yu's words of comfort, Madame Meng habitually wanted to smile to further confuse Gao Yu. But when she looked at Yi Fei, like slaughtering chickens and dogs, the bloody wolves were slaughtered. As the remaining sovereigns were killed one by one, Madame Meng's face was ashen. There was no trace of a smile on her face. Young Master Gao, if you can kill Yi Fei for me, I'm willing to promise you anything. Madame Meng suddenly bit her red lips and made a very tempting suggestion. This woman has some tricks up her sleeve. Of course, if she's willing to accompany me this once, killing Yi Fei will be no different from killing an ant on the ground. Looking at Madame Meng's exquisite figure, especially her mature charm, Gao Yu felt as if there was a ball of fire burning in his lower abdomen. But on the surface, Gao Yu maintained his elegant demeanor. He shook his head loftily and said, Mengru, now is not the right time. The new faction has a 6-month protection period. This is a rule set by the Baiyun Divine Lord himself. The ancestor of the Clear Cloud Pavilion also issued an iron rule to warn us that the rules set by the Baiyun Divine Lord, even our Clear Cloud Pavilion. Of course, if you can stay by my side for half a year, once the protection period is over, I can destroy his little black rock peak 100 times over with just 1 word. As he spoke, Gao Yu's eyes inadvertently glanced at Madame Meng's body. This glance made Madame Meng's face turn extremely ugly. She was about to speak. Boom! On the Blood Wolf Peak, a remaining sovereign covered in blood finally broke through Jiang Zhen's god clock and escaped. Then, he saw a luxurious flying boat in the distance and Madame Meng standing on it. This sovereign immediately shouted in ecstasy. "Madam, save me. This Yi Fei is too scary. He's a demon. We have so many people in the Blood Wolf gang. If we follow your orders, big buy, second buy, kill him." A vicious look suddenly flashed across Madame Meng's eyes. Big Buy and Second Buy immediately raised their poisoned longbows and shot 2 arrows at the talkative sovereign, killing him on the spot. After all, Madame Meng had instructed the Blood Wolf gang to target Yi Fei. This was a secret operation. If this talkative sovereign spread the news, even Gao Yu wouldn't be able to protect Madame Meng. As long as the Baiyun god was alive, no one in the Baiyun nation would dare to break the rules set by the Baiyun god. Even the Clear Cloud Pavilion was no exception. Thus, the only thing Madame Meng could do was take advantage of the fact that the ruler had yet to speak and kill him to silence him. Not only was that ruler killed, even the ruler that the Heavenly Blood Wolf had sent to report to Madame Meng was killed by Madame Meng to silence him. Yi Fei's gaze instantly shot from the Blood Wolf Peak to the luxurious flying boat. Then, he stared coldly at the vicious woman on the flying boat. "Madame Meng, you've come at the right time. It's time to settle our grudges." Boom! Thinking of the countless sovereigns who had died tragically in the Divine Star Academy, Yi Fei couldn't help but be filled with boundless killing intent. Chapter 2105. Gao Lian's expression was cold as he shouted at Yi Fei as if he was ordering his own servant. It was no wonder. Not only was Clear Cloud Pavilion the most powerful force in Baiyun Nation, but it was also the uncrowned emperor of Baiyun Nation. Gao Lian's status was equivalent to that of a prince of another empire. In his eyes, no matter how strong Yi Fei was, he was just a stray dog that had escaped into Baiyun Nation. If not for Yi Fei's murderous intent threatening Madame Meng, Gao Lian would not have bothered to speak to Yi Fei. "You want us to get lost? Who do you think you are? What right do you have to interfere in our feud with the imperial family of the Heavenly River?" Lin Chen and Lin Gui spoke. The Lin family was once the #1 family in Heavenly River Imperial City, and had almost replaced the imperial family of the Heavenly River. Their arrogance was not inferior to Gao Lian's. Yi Fei ignored Gao Lian's words. In his eyes there was only Madame Meng. The thunderclap spear in his hand shone with a shocking divine light. In Heavenly River Imperial City, it was you who set up a trap and almost caused me to lose my life in Qi Manor. In Baiyun Nation, it was you who bribed Blood Sky Wolf and tried to kill me time and time again. Outside Clear Cloud City, it was you who sent Han elite zombie soldiers to poison me to death. Now, it is you who instigated the Blood Wolf gang to break Baiyun Nation's rules. Breaking the rules of the Baiyun Nation and attacking my Black Rock Peak. Madame Meng, please give me a reason not to kill you. Bam! Yi Fei took a step forward. His murderous aura was like a hurricane. The aura of a ruler formed the terrifying power of a divine sword. The thunderclap spear in his hand had turned into a thunderclap sword. Yi Fei held 2 divine swords. He completely ignored Gao Lian and suddenly charged towards Madame Meng. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were shocked. This kid is not human. He is too perverted. We did not dare to make a move, but he did. After all, the airship in front of them was Clear Cloud Pavilion. How dare Yi Fei ignore them? How dare he ignore Gao Lian, who was like a prince? Gao Ying was not the only one who was stunned. A look of shock flashed across Madame Meng's face, followed by a thick resentment and anger. Young Master Gao, you've seen this demon. Everyone in Qingzhou knows that the Baiyun Nation belongs to the Qingyun Pavilion, and you, young Master Gao, are the prince of the Baiyun Nation. This demon, on the other hand, was a subject. This one not only ignored the Clear Cloud Pavilion, but also ignored your highness. If it were in our Tianhe country, such a traitor would be executed by 1,000 cuts and his entire family would be exterminated. Madame Meng's words were extremely malicious. This caused the expression of Gao Yu, who had always considered himself a member of the Baiyun royal family, to turn extremely ugly. Even though he knew that Madame Meng was trying to frame him, he still saw that not only did Yi Fei not scram, he even ignored him and directly boarded the flying boat. A huge rage emerged from Gao Lian's body. Then, this rage turned into a terrifying profound energy storm that instantly exploded and blasted towards Yi Fei. Now I've changed my mind. Not only do I want you to scram, I also want you to kneel on the ground and kowtow as an apology, to punish you for treating my clear cloud pavilion so well. Gao Yu's great disrespect. Now kneel. Boom. In the sky, the shadow of a huge ping bird suddenly appeared. Then, this ping bird suddenly flapped its wings continuously under Gao Lian's control. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on Yi Fei. This was the clear cloud pavilion's sovereign superpower, the wings of the green peng. The ping bird's wings were as big as the sea, and its feathers were as big as mountains. When Gao Lian's wings of the green peng slashed out, the surrounding space exploded violently, forming a violent spatial storm. This caused Lin Chen and Lin Gui, who were far away, to sway. Under Gao Lian's power, they had the illusion that they were about to kneel. However, what made them even more terrified was Yi Fei. Faced with Gao Lian's sudden attack, Yi Fei did not even look at him. His body was already emitting a dazzling purple-gold light. The law of thunder burned intensely on Yi Fei's body like a raging fire. Bam! Gao Lian's wings of the green peng landed squarely on Yi Fei's body. He originally thought that he would be able to slap Yi Fei out of the sky and make Yi Fei kneel in a humiliating position in front of him. However, the result was that the wings of the green peng, which was as big as the sky, only dimmed the purple-gold flames on Yi Fei's body. The purple-gold flames dimmed a little. Yi Fei's silhouette was still moving forward. He even took advantage of the moment when Gao Yu attacked with the thunderclap sword and successfully rushed to the deck of the flying ship. How is this possible? Madame Meng was completely stunned. She could not believe that Yi Fei had become so strong after just breaking through to the ruler level. Especially that purple-gold flame on his body. Suddenly, a majestic figure appeared in her mind. Chen Dutian. The Chen Dutian who rejected me back then, the Chen Dutian who did not know what was good for him and stole the dragon skin. He is back again. He is even stronger than before. Not good, big white, second, protect me. A trace of fear and panic appeared on Madame Meng's face. She had been thoroughly frightened by Yi Fei. At this moment, she felt as if she had returned to the time when Yi Fei had killed King Qi with her own eyes. She had watched Yi Fei fight his way out of the encirclement and turn King Qi's residence into a river of blood. She, on the other hand, was a wise woman. However, in the face of such absolute power, her schemes and methods seemed so powerless and weak. This is the world of martialists after all. As long as you are strong enough, you can crush and suppress everything. Madame Meng, you are indeed very resourceful. Your charm and intelligence can indeed make many men run in circles. However, the great wisdom you think you have is just a small part of it. You are just smart. Thunder rumbled and formed 8 divine dragons that coiled around Yi Fei's body. He strode forward, ignoring Gao Yu's attacks and Baida and Bai'er's attempts to stop him. Just like that, he endured the attacks of the 3 rulers and rushed to Madame Meng's side. The heavy black iron sword was suddenly raised and slashed down fiercely. As it stabbed into Madame Meng's soul, the entire world was filled with Yi Fei's sonorous voice. True great wisdom requires unparalleled perseverance to step onto the martial path. You will advance bravely, and you will not regret it even if you die 100 times. This is true great wisdom, great courage, and great fearlessness. As for you, you only have petty tricks, but you do not have the courage to climb the martial path. You do not have the fearlessness to face a strong enemy. Therefore, you can't kill me, but I can kill you. Yi Fei withdrew his heavy sword and turned to leave. Behind him, Madame Meng's eyes were filled with fear and confusion. Even in her dreams, she did not expect that her thousands of schemes would not be able to block Yi Fei's powerful strike. Just one strike. Her beauty, her confidence, her pride, including her body, her sky palace, and her soul, were all shattered. She was dead. Madame is dead. She was killed by Demon Yi. Not far away, Baida and Bai Er were in a daze. They were clearly at a loss. Chapter 2106. Yi Fei was a sentimental person. Without the help of Baida and Bai Er, he wouldn't have been able to break through the blockade set up by family He and family Wang, enter the imperial city of the Heavenly River, and enter the Divine Star Academy. Similarly, without the black iron heavy sword that Madame Meng gave him, he would have died several times in the imperial city of the Heavenly River. Although Madame Meng had done all this to win him over, she had indeed helped him. This was also the reason why he had spared Madame Meng when he had killed King Qi at Qi Manor. This was because he owed Madame Meng a debt of gratitude. He did not kill her to repay this debt of gratitude. However, this time, Madame Meng had infiltrated the Baiyu nation and continued to pursue him, wanting to kill him. He had no choice but to fight and kill her. This was because he had already repaid what he owed Madame Meng at Qi Manor. Since there was no favor, Yi Fei couldn't be soft-hearted when he had to kill her. It was the same reason why he hadn't killed Baida and Bai Er now. This was because Baida and Bai Er had helped him once in the imperial city. Now that Madame Meng was dead, Yi Fei didn't need to worry about Baida and Bai Er, these two ordinary sovereigns. Yi Fei, you are really a strange person. However, we won't be grateful to you. You killed Madame Meng. We don't have the ability to take revenge on you, but the imperial family of the Heavenly River won't let you off. The Heavenly River ruler won't let you off. Baida's expression was filled with grief as he supported Madame Meng's body. Bai Er's expression was complicated. In the end, he revealed an extremely terrifying piece of news. The Heavenly River ruler, the founding emperor of the Heavenly River nation, hadn't died. He had even established contact with the imperial family of the Heavenly River nation. Yi Fei's expression became quite grave as he watched Baida and Bai Er leave. A heavenly lord wasn't scary, but a Tao lord was a terrifying existence that could single-handedly take on an entire nation. This was something that he had to look up to. The reason why Second White revealed this information was to repay Yi Fei for not killing him. If they met again in the future, if they had the ability, they would still kill Yi Fei and avenge Madame Meng. However, Yi Fei didn't care. When he broke through to the sovereign realm and formed the second golden body of laws, he was destined to rise from the sovereign realm to the level of the Lord of Heaven. Unless Baida and Bai Er could also break through the Lord of Heaven, they were not a threat at all. Yi Fei was too lazy to even look at the furious Gao sickle. Putting away the black iron heavy sword and jumping off the flying boat, Yi Fei planned to return to the Blood Wolf Peak. This attitude made Gao Sickle, who was used to being high and mighty, turn ashen. He moved his body and once again blocked Yi Fei's path. Out of the way! You are not qualified to be my opponent. Yi Fei's tone was indifferent. What he said was the truth. With his current strength, he could defeat anyone below the level of the Lord of Heaven. Hearing this, Gao Sickle's ashen face twisted slightly. Who was he? He was the young master of Clear Cloud Pavilion. His status was equivalent to a prince of another country. As for Yi Fei, not only did he disrespect him, he even dared to talk nonsense in front of him. He even killed Madame Meng. This was as if he, a prince, didn't exist. Gao Sickle couldn't take it anymore. How dare you? Impudent! Who do you think you are? The entire Baiyu nation belongs to the Clear Cloud Pavilion. Since you have established your power in the Baiyu nation, that makes you a subject of the Clear Cloud Pavilion. Yet, you went against your superiors and killed the woman I took a fancy to in front of me. Ye Fei demon ye, you have guts. Where is Iron Hand? Take down this madman. First, destroy his Sky Palace fate wheel. Make him kneel in front of me like a cripple. Boom. Following Gao Sickle's cold order, a strong light of teleportation suddenly appeared on the airship. It turned out that this airship also had a teleportation platform. Just now, Yi Fei killed Madame Meng too quickly. Gao Sickle didn't have time to stop him. In his anger, he immediately crushed the talisman in his hand. As long as this talisman was broken, the higher-ups of Clear Cloud Pavilion would immediately know that he was in danger. They would immediately send the Lord of Heaven. They would come to protect him. However, at this moment, after hearing Yi Fei's words and seeing with his own eyes the powerful talent that Yi Fei displayed, Gao Sickle was enraged. He was already filled with intense jealousy and murderous intent. This time, he didn't invite Iron Hand, the Lord of Heaven, to seek protection. He wanted to kill. He wanted to kill Yi Fei right here and now. I am Iron Hand, a guest of Clear Cloud Pavilion, the Lord of Heaven. Anyone who harms young Master Gao is the mortal enemy of Clear Cloud Pavilion. Now, are you going to destroy your Sky Palace fate wheel, or do you want me to help you? Iron Hand's voice was very cold. His entire body was as cold as a machine. Only his eyes were as red as blood, filled with the desire to kill. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were so scared that their faces turned pale. This is too shameless. He can't defeat Yi Fei directly, so this Gao Sickle actually invited the Lord of Heaven. I've finally seen the style of Clear Cloud Pavilion. Yi Fei ignored Gao Sickle and only stared coldly at Iron Hand, the Lord of Heaven, who had just appeared. In the past, he didn't have a good impression of Clear Cloud Pavilion, but he didn't have a bad impression of them either. However, this time, Gao Sickle really disgusted him. Seeing that Yi Fei was impulsive, Lin Chen and Lin Gui were so scared that their faces turned even paler. They desperately winked at Yi Fei, wanting to tell Yi Fei that they could offend the Blood Wolf Gang now, but definitely not Clear Cloud Pavilion. Brother Yi, Ancestor Yi. Impulsiveness is the devil. Jiang Zhen's eyelids twitched violently. Without waiting for Yi Fei and Iron Hand to escalate the conflict, he had already rushed forward and cupped his hands towards Iron Hand. Senior, please listen to my explanation. Our Black Rock Peak had no intention of offending Clear Cloud Pavilion. It was Blood Wolf Gang who colluded with the Imperial family of the Sky River to deliberately destroy the Baiyun Nation. We had no choice but to act according to the rules of the Baiyun Nation. Senior, please investigate thoroughly. Jiang Zhen's words were watertight and reasonable. Even Yi Fei couldn't find a single mistake in them. He couldn't help but praise Jiang Zhen in his heart. Although Jiang Zhen's martial arts talent wasn't good, he was still eloquent. These words also put Iron Hand, the Lord of Heaven, in a difficult position. He subconsciously glanced at Gao Sickle, but he saw that Gao Sickle's expression was cold. He coldly raised his head and said to the sky, Blood Wolf colluded with the Imperial family of the Sky River? What a joke! Why didn't I see it? Did any of you see it? On the airship, there were some servants and maids of Gao Sickle. When they heard this, they smiled knowingly and said, No, we didn't see Blood Wolf colluding with the enemy. We only saw this demon go berserk and kill the woman that young Master fancied. He even tried to kill young Master. You guys are spouting nonsense. You are clearly distorting the truth. Jiang Zhen was furious. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were also furious, but they didn't dare to say anything. Chapter 2107. Yi Fei's words hit the nail on the head. Even if Qingyun Pavilion was already the uncrowned king, as long as Baiyun the Divine Lord was still alive, there was a possibility that he could return to the Baiyun Nation and regain power. At this time, if Qingyun Pavilion were to break the various iron laws that Bai Yun the Divine Lord had deliberately promulgated to prevent the vassals from usurping the nation, that would be tantamount to provocation. It would be a provocation to Bai Yun the Divine Lord. Iron Hand, a mere Lord of Heaven, could not bear the consequences of this. He hurriedly whispered to Gao Sickle, "Master, why don't we endure for now? When the 6 months are up, it will be easy to deal with them." "Endure? He killed my woman in front of me, and you want me to endure?" Gao Sickle's face was completely distorted. "Your woman? You really know how to flatter yourself. Fine, even if I killed your woman, where's the evidence? Where's the corpse? Show it to me." Yi Fei sneered. Gao Sickle was still too inexperienced to play these tricks with him. Lin Chen and Lin Gui looked at Yi Fei in horror. Could it be that Yi Fei already knew this would happen, so he deliberately let Baida and Bai Er take Madame Meng's corpse away? If that was the case, then Yi Fei was too terrifying. No wonder back then in the Imperial City, I unknowingly took the blame for him and even wet my pants in the end. Lin Gui's expression suddenly became very melancholy. Gao Yan's expression also changed abruptly when he heard this. Only then did he realize that although Yi Fei seemed impulsive, he was actually extremely shrewd. He had done everything impeccably. He said that Yi Fei had killed his woman, but where was the evidence? Where was the corpse? No, there was nothing. At this time, it was impossible for Gao Sickle to get Baida and Bai Er back. In Gao Sickle's heart, suddenly, he felt a strong sense of shame and anger. He was the young master of Qingyun Pavilion, and he was actually defeated by a few small forces. He was rendered speechless. He could not tolerate it at all. "You, come here." A smile suddenly flashed across Gao Sickle's face. He calmly called for a maidservant on the airship. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, he pierced her forehead with a finger. The maidservant's eyes widened in horror. Even in death, she did not expect that the young master she had always admired would kill her so easily. The maidservant's corpse fell limply to the head's feet was the only one's head, Lord of Heaven, who seemed to be used to Sickle's coldness. Just now, Yi Fei had used his quick reaction on the spot to show his wisdom. At this moment, Gao Sickles on the other of Heaven, of course, Hats on the other hand was on the spot. "Now we have the evidence. Kills this kill?" Gao Sickle stared at Yi Fei with a sinister smile. Yi Fei had ignored his warning and attack, and killed Madame Meng in front of him. This made Gao Sickle feel a deep sense of helplessness and humiliation. Now, he would use the cruelest method to wash away this humiliation. The Lord of Heaven also sighed deeply. "Black Rock Peak, what a pity! You could have provoked anyone, but you had to provoke young Master Gao Sickle. Now, even if I don't want to kill you, I have no choice." Lin Chen and Lin Gui were shocked and angry. "Qingyun Pavilion, you are openly breaking the Bai Yun Divine Lord's iron law. Is there any law in the Bai Yun nation?" "Law? Ah!" The Lord of Heaven and Gao Sickle laughed coldly. Gao Sickle even mocked. "In the Bai Yun nation, the Qingyun Pavilion is the law. My words are the law. If I want you dead, you must die. As for the Bai Yun Divine Lord's rule, he only killed you to silence you. Who would know that the Qingyun Pavilion has broken the rules? Iron Hand, kill them all." Boom! Between heaven and earth, a terrifying aura of the Lord of Heaven suddenly appeared. The Lord of Heaven, Iron Hand, had finally made his move. Huge wings of the azure rock appeared behind his back. As the wings spread open, the feather spirits formed the most terrifying of blades and swords, densely packed together. They surrounded Yi Fei, Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui. All of them were enveloped. Obviously, the Lord of Heaven, Iron Hand, was prepared to silence them. Gao Sickle also looked at Yi Fei proudly. "I was planning to have some fun with that Madame Meng. How dare you ignore my warning and spoil my fun? Then, I'll use your blood to appease my anger. Shameless scum." This was Yi Fei's evaluation of Gao Sickle. This evaluation made Gao Sickle's expression even gloomier. Sensing Gao Sickle's anger, a cruel glint flashed across the Iron Hand's blood-red eyes. He purposely made the feather spirits that filled the sky as thin as needles. If these feather spirits pierced through the body, the pain they would cause would be unimaginable. It would definitely be horrifying. Lin Chen was so frightened that his face turned pale. Lin Gui suddenly had the urge to wet his pants. Jiang Zhen, the veteran dominator, roared angrily and was prepared to self-destruct to protect these three juniors from escaping. But soon, Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui were all frightened out of their wit. Gao Sickle widened his eyes in disbelief. The Iron Hand Lord of Heaven's blood-red eyes also flashed with intense shock. This was because Yi Fei had made his move. He didn't retreat, nor did he escape. Instead, his entire body was burning with purple-gold lightning. He strode forward like a meteor and met the Iron Hand's needle-like feather spirits. Boom, boom, boom. Countless feather spirits struck Yi Fei's body. However, the strength of the second-level golden body allowed Yi Fei to withstand this rain of needles. He suddenly took a step forward and rushed in front of the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven. He raised the heavy dark steel heavy sword and released an astonishing wave of divine power. It shattered the space and sent the Iron Hand Divine Lord flying like a meteor. He also smashed a huge hole in the flying boat. From the hole, the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven's furious roar could be heard. Yi Fei's Dominator attack couldn't kill a Lord of Heaven like him. However, to be beaten so miserably by a puny Dominator using brute force in front of everyone made the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven extremely furious. Congratulations, you ant. You've successfully infuriated me. Die for me. Fury of the Green Rock. From the hole, a terrifying divine bird image rushed out. It carried the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven's anger and hatred as it ruthlessly slammed into Yi Fei. Yi Fei couldn't withstand the immense power of the Lord of Heaven's remarkable ability. The dark steel heavy sword almost flew out of his hand. The lightning flames formed by the second-level golden body of Heaven's laws also shrank rapidly. They flickered as if they would be extinguished at any time. Even so, Yi Fei didn't retreat. Instead, he used the dark steel heavy sword to block the divine bird's sharp claws. At the same time, intense lightning sword radiance suddenly appeared on his body. It was as if lightning was destroying the world. The resplendent lightning sword radiance had already slashed open a shocking crack in the body of the divine bird, the Lord of Heaven. If Yi Fei's divine power was terrifying enough, his sword could even completely destroy the Lord of Heaven's remarkable ability. This is impossible. It's fine if he can ignore the Dominator's attack, but how can he block the Lord of Heaven's attack? Gao Ying's eyes widened in shock. He suddenly felt a strong sense of jealousy towards Yi Fei. Even a young master of the Clear Cloud Pavilion like him couldn't block the Lord of Heaven's attack twice in a row. However, Yi Fei had done it. This wasn't as simple as blocking, but a direct hit. Chapter 2108. On this official's body, there was also a gilded token with the word medicine on it, representing his identity. He was from the Medicine Manor. As for the Medicine Master Manor, it had existed since the founding of the Baiyu Nation. Such a vassal was different from the Qingyun Pavilion that came later and fought its way in from the outside. They were true vassals. Not only did they have their own territories, but they were also given official positions by the Baiyun Divine Lord himself. For example, the Black Rock Peak that Yi Fei occupied was given up by the Medicine Manor's Medicine Manor. However, because they gave it up too quickly, there were still some elixirs on the peak that they did not have time to bring out. The most precious one was a piece of enlightenment stone the size of a round table. However, not only did Yi Fei occupy that peak, but he also suddenly sold a piece of enlightenment stone in Qingyun City in exchange for a sovereign elixir. This made the Medicine Manor think of something bad. They suspected that Yi Fei had discovered the medicine manor's hidden treasure trove and obtained the Enlightenment Stone. This official had been ordered to investigate this matter. However, before he could rush to the Black Rock Peak, he accidentally discovered that Yi Fei had abandoned the Black Rock Peak and was bold enough to attack a Grade 6 faction, the Blood Wolf Gang, with only 4 people. What was even more ridiculous was that Yi Fei had actually succeeded. Not only did he destroy the Blood Wolf Gang, he even killed the mastermind, Madame Meng. Of course, this was not what shocked this official. What really shocked him was Yi Fei's terrifying golden body that could withstand the attack of the Lord of Heaven. Before he came out, this official had been ordered to investigate Yi Fei. He discovered that Yi Fei was very likely to be a very powerful grandmaster of spiritual augmentation. He was already very surprised. Now, he discovered that besides the talent of spiritual augmentation, Yi Fei also had a strong talent for combat. This official's heart could no longer remain calm. It's rare for someone to have both the talent of spiritual attachment and martial arts at the same time. Such people are all absolute geniuses. It's a pity for such geniuses to die here. Recently, His Highness received news from the Divine Prefecture that the son of the Immortal Lord is about to return. A Grandmaster of spiritual attachment like Yi Fei. Moreover, he's a martial arts genius. He's definitely worth roping in. After making up his mind, the official hidden in the clouds finally walked out of his hiding place. However, his aura was so secretive that Gao Sickle and Iron Hand, the Lord of Heaven, did not notice him. At this moment, Yi Fei had also unleashed all of his power to resist the Iron Hand's Lord of Heaven divine power. He couldn't afford to be distracted. Even so, Yi Fei's golden body of laws was still being beaten by the enraged Iron Hand Lord of Heaven. It was flickering and seemed like it would collapse at any moment. Once the golden body of laws collapsed, he would lose the means to resist the Lord of Heaven. Sooner or later, he would be beaten to death by the Lord of Heaven's divine power. However, Yi Fei still had no intention of retreating. This was because he was the only one here who could temporarily resist the Lord of Heaven. Once he retreated, Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui, who were behind him, would definitely die. Now, Yi Fei gritted his teeth and persevered, buying time for Jiang Zhen and the other 2 to escape. Senior Jiang, you must escape and spread the news that the Clear Cloud Pavilion has broken the iron law of the Baiyun Divine Lord. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with anger. This was the only way he could take revenge on the Clear Cloud Pavilion. However, once he did so, he would completely offend the Clear Cloud Pavilion and lose the possibility of establishing a foothold in the Baiyun Nation. However, Yi Fei could not care less as Gao Sickle and the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven closed in on him. Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui's eyes turned red. They split up and tried to escape in different directions. This way, only one of them could successfully escape. Not only would it reduce the pressure on Yi Fei, but it would also spread the news of the Clear Cloud Pavilion scandal. Kill them. Kill them for me. If even one of them escapes, I'll go back and kill your entire family. Gao Sickle was furious. Since they had done such a disgraceful thing, of course, he would not leave anyone alive. Not only did he personally hunt down Jiang Zhen, the strongest ruler, but he also ordered the ruler guards who came later to hunt down Lin Chen and Lin Gui. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged official wearing a tall hat and a wide belt shook his head in disappointment once again. I've long heard that Gao Sickle is brutal and ruthless. Today, I see that the rumors are true. However, the protection period for new forces is an iron law set by the Baiyun Divine Lord. Gao Sickle, you've openly violated it. Even if the Azure Cloud Dao Lord was here, he would not allow you to do as you please. The middle-aged official continuously stepped into the void and entered the battlefield. Then, he waved his hand. Between the heavens and the earth, countless rays of light condensed and formed 3 green wooden shields. They blocked in front of Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui. Boom! Another wave of the Lord of Heaven's might shook the heavens and the earth. It also caused the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven, who had attacked in a rage, to quickly retreat with a serious expression. He retreated until he was in front of Gao Sickle. "Medicine Manor, Guo Lord of Heaven. Young master, we're in trouble now." Seeing that the Lord of Heaven of Medicine Manor had actually appeared here, and was obviously on Yi Fei's side, Gao Sickle was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Originally, his plan was very good. After all, there were only 4 people on Yi Fei's side. Even if he had openly broken the rules, as long as he could quickly silence them, then no one would know about this. Let it out. Unfortunately, the Lord of Heaven Gua had actually appeared here. This person was not only an official of Medicine Manor, but he was also a powerful Lord of Heaven himself. Even if Gao Sickle had 10 times the courage, he would not dare to touch the Lord of Heaven Gua. He also could not touch the Lord of Heaven Gua. Gao Sickle's face was livid with anger. Iron Hand also secretly reminded him, "Young master, it's better to know when to stop. If this matter blows up, neither you nor I will have a good ending." With a wave of his hand, Gao Sickle had already called back his subordinates. He looked coldly at Yi Fei and said, "Boy, consider yourself lucky this time. You just happened to meet the Lord of Heaven of Medicine Manor passing by. However, our matter will not be settled so easily." Hearing this, Yi Fei's gaze towards Gao Sickle became even colder. "You only dare to say these words behind the Lord of Heaven. If you have the guts, don't rely on the Lord of Heaven's protection. Let's have a one-on-one battle. Whoever retreats is a coward." "You!" Gao Sickle was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Seeing that Yi Fei's golden body defense had not been broken even now, Gao Sickle decisively extinguished the thought of fighting one-on-one with Yi Fei. Instead, he sneered meaningfully, "We will see who is the coward in half a year's time. Yi Fei, I hope you still dare to stand before me at that time, saying these words in front of me. Let's go. There's no meaning in playing with these ants at all." Chapter 2109. In the end, Gao Sickle's flying boat cut through the sky and quickly left. But Yi Fei knew that after this incident, the enmity between him and Qingyun Pavilion had been completely formed. Once the 6 months were up, Gao Sickle would definitely launch a thunderous revenge on him. "It looks like I have to work hard to cultivate in this 6 months. At the very least, I have to break through to the Lord of Heaven before I have the ability to protect myself." Yi Fei took a deep breath and temporarily put aside the threat of Gao Sickle and the others. Then, he quickly walked towards the Lord of Heaven Gua. No matter why this person wanted to help him, it was because of the appearance of the Lord of Heaven Gua that Gao Sickle was afraid of being exposed and had no choice but to retreat halfway. This also allowed Black Rock Peak to remain in Qingyun Pavilion for a period of 6 months. Under the threat of the Black Rock Peak, they had gained close to half a year's time. Just for this point, Yi Fei was very grateful to the Lord of Heaven Gua and said, "Thank you, Senior, for your righteous help when you saw injustice. There's no need to be so courteous. The reason why I made a move was because I couldn't tolerate Green Cloud Pavilion breaking Baiyun God Lord's rules. Secondly, I needed to find you to understand some things. Alright, you should know who I am. I'm from Medicine King Manor, and Medicine King Valley is a faction under my manor." The Lord of Heaven Gua looked meaningfully at Yi Fei. Yi Fei's face was full of shock. "So it's a senior from Medicine Manor. Speaking of which, it's fate. The Black Rock Peak that we occupied used to belong to Medicine King Valley. Senior, are you here to take back the Black Rock Peak?" he asked tentatively, but his heart was in turmoil. He thought of the treasures that had been hollowed out in the dark fog and the enlightenment stone that he had sold. The Lord of Heaven Gua also stared intently at Yi Fei's change in expression and said calmly, "No, Black Rock Peak was invaded by darkness. Since we have given it up, we will not take it back. However, we still have a treasure trove of resources that we did not manage to take away in time. It was only when we checked the inventory that we discovered it. There was an enlightenment stone the size of a round table left in the treasure trove. I wonder if you have seen it? Hearing this, Yi Fei's face was full of extreme shock. What, the size of a round table? That's priceless. What a pity, I was at Black Rock Peak and did not know that there was such a treasure there. Yi Fei, looking at the Lord of Heaven's face, could not help but ask seriously, since you did not see that enlightenment stone, then what about the enlightenment stone you sold of Jade Pavilion? And I found the aura of the spirit's failed enlightenment stone spirit of petrification. You! As he spoke, Guo Tianjuan's gaze was fixed on Yi Fei. Lin Chun and Lin Gui broke out in a cold sweat on Yi Fei's behalf. Jiang Zhen was secretly nervous. He had seen with his own eyes how Yi Fei had taken down the door and pillars of the Medicine King Valley's treasure trove and carried them out. Senior, is there some misunderstanding between us? All right, I admit that I did accidentally stumble into the Medicine King Valley's treasure trove. But when I escaped, it was already in ruins. I only found a stone door and a few pillars. I did not find any other treasures, Yi Fei said firmly. He clenched his fists tightly, his face filled with sincerity. Unfortunately, the of Yi Fei was also a shrewd person. How could he believe Yi Fei's words so easily? He immediately asked, since it was in ruins, then what about the enlightenment stone you sold? Senior, you may not know, but I found that enlightenment stone in the ruins of the treasure trove. There were many teeth marks on it. I suspect that it might have been left behind by the vicious beasts after they broke into the treasure trove. The vicious beasts fought over the enlightenment stone and accidentally left it behind. Yi Fei spoke with certainty. He seemed to be very sure of himself. There was even a hint of grievance on his face, which inevitably gave Guo Tianjun the impression that he had misunderstood Yi Fei. In the end, Guo Tianjun nodded and said, there are indeed many fierce beasts in the dark and foggy grotto heaven world, and they do have the possibility of attacking the treasury. How about this, you lead the way and let me take a look at the treasury? Whoosh! Hearing this, Jiang Zhen and Lin Chen turned pale. They had seen with their own eyes how Yi Fei had destroyed the Medicine King Valley's treasure trove. If this was discovered by the of Yi Fei, the of Heaven would slap them to death. Senior wants to enter the dark fog? That's great. Alright, I'll take you there. Actually, I also want to know the origin of the dark fog. Yi Fei was very enthusiastic and even a little impatient. This gave the of Yi Fei, the of Heaven, Jiang Zhen, and Lin Chun another huge misconception. They speculated that the Medicine King Valley's treasure trove had nothing to do with Yi Fei. Only Lin Gui, who had once been the scapegoat, looked at Yi Fei with a strange expression. He looked at Yi Fei. Why do I feel that the more honest Yi Fei is, the easier it is for him to cheat others? Lin Gui muttered in his heart, but he didn't dare to say this out loud. He felt very aggrieved. But at the insistence of the of Heaven, Yi Fei's group returned to Black Rock Peak not long after destroying the Blood Wolf Gang. The of Heaven's eyelids twitched when he saw the treasure trove stones on Black Rock Peak. Yi Fei's expression also turned ugly. He realized that the traps and arrays he had set up at the entrance to the dark fog had caused a large number of spirit rats to die. Could it be that the flying serpent escaped? What flying serpent? The of Heaven's eyes shone. After all, his main purpose in coming here was to find that precious enlightenment stone. Yi Fei didn't bat an eyelid as he added fuel to the fire. That's some kind of leader vicious beasts that exist in the dark fog. They can command hordes of spirit rats to fight for them. Back then, I was chased by many spirit rats and had no choice but to run for my life. Luckily, I managed to escape to the vicinity of the treasure trove. Senior, are you sure that if we really want to go in, we won't be able to use our martial arts? The of Heaven said in a deep voice, I came out this time under orders to investigate the paradise world in the dark fog. Since I'm here, I naturally have to go in. What paradise world? There's actually a paradise world in the dark fog? Jiangzhen shouted out in shock. The of Heaven looked at Jiangzhen in surprise. You also know about the paradise world? Yes, you're from the God Star Academy and Ren Tianxing is the of Heaven. Since you're his disciple, it's not strange for you to know about the paradise world. The of Heaven stared at the dark fog for a while before quickly taking out a set of strange armor to protect himself. Boom. Following that, the armor emitted a dazzling light of divine runes. It was actually a very precious 5th-tier defensive armor. Clearly, the Medicine King Manor and Guotianjun had long since made preparations to enter this dark fog. Yi Fei also took advantage of the time when the of Heaven activated the armor to quickly ask Jiangzhen for information. It turned out that the paradise world was actually a strange world that existed between the heaven realm and the earth realm. This kind of world would often drift randomly in the spacetime cracks. However, if a crack appeared in the spacetime of the heaven realm, it would overlap with the paradise world to a certain extent. Then, under the influence of the laws of heaven and earth, the paradise world would constantly invade the heaven realm in the form of darkness every night. Chapter 21:10. It was easy to discover a grotto heaven world, but it was extremely difficult to enter. This was because the grotto heaven world had the characteristic of absorbing material energy. It also contained a large amount of the laws of heaven and earth, which could greatly enhance the abilities of the vicious beast. This was also why the earth spirit rats, which were only slightly stronger than wild beasts in the earth domain, had the strength of a heavenly venerate in the dark fog. It was also for this reason that there were large numbers of vicious beasts in every grotto heaven world. Furthermore, the stronger the grotto heaven world, the more terrifying the vicious beasts in it would be. Therefore, very few ancient martial art practitioners were willing to enter a grotto heaven world. Seeing the fully armed Lord of Heaven Gua, Yi Fei became increasingly suspicious of the Lord of Heaven Gua's true motive for entering the grotto heaven world. No matter how precious the treasures in the treasury are, they are definitely not as precious as the Lord of Heaven's life. I heard that the Medicine King Valley lost a Lord of Heaven in their last time and had no choice but to evacuate. Why did the Medicine King Manor send another Lord of Heaven in there not long ago? Yi Fei secretly pondered but did not ask. After all, the Lord of Heaven Gua's strength was not on the same level. Even if he asked, the Lord of Heaven Gua might not answer. It might even arouse the suspicions of the Lord of Heaven Gua. Therefore, Yi Fei obediently brought the Lord of Heaven Gua to the treasury to prove his innocence. Due to the special nature of the dark fog, no ancient martial art practitioner would be able to use their remarkable martial arts inside. Without the terrifying divine power of Yi Fei, Jiangzhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui did not enter. Instead, they waited outside for Yi Fei's return. However, Jiangzhen and the rest did not know that the usually deserted Black Rock Peak was destined to welcome many different guests today. In the Bayou Nation, there were many mysterious men and women wearing black robes and holding snake staff. There were old and young, tall and thin, but all of them had a sinister aura. There was also a ferocious snake head on the snake staff. Many of the snake staffs were entwined with many tiny blood snakes. These blood snakes could not speak, but their eyes were filled with deep hatred. At this moment, they were emitting strange hissing sounds in the direction of the Black Rock Peak. Within the dark fog, Yi Fei spent a total of 10 days to bring the Lord of Heaven Gua to the treasury. It took him several times longer than his first time. This was not because Yi Fei had slowed down or because there were powerful vicious beasts blocking the way. Instead, it was because the heavenly abode was constantly devouring the resources and energy of Black Rock Peak. The longer it devoured, the larger the area within the dark fog would become. For example, the last time Yi Fei came here, he was chasing after the soaring serpent. It only took him 3 days to find the treasury. However, this time, he spent 10 days to find the treasury by relying on Xiao Chao's senses. However, after Yi Fei tore down the treasury, it became a deep hole. It was a deep hole, and there was a sovereign realm ferocious beast living in it. Yi Fei pointed at the huge creature and immediately threw the blame at it. Senior, this is the vicious beasts that chased me here. Look, the entire treasury has become its lair. Roar. The vicious beasts did not know that they had unknowingly taken the blame for Yi Fei. Sensing someone's aura, a 100-legged centipede covered in iron armor charged out of the hole with a furious roar. Seeing this centipede and hearing Yi Fei's words, the Lord of Heaven Guo was instantly enraged. Evil creature, it's not enough that you destroyed my treasury. You even destroyed the Enlightenment Stone. This Lord will not forgive you. Kill. The Lord of Heaven Guo charged forward. The Tier 5 armor on his body suddenly emitted a dazzling divine light. Under the cover of this divine light, the Lord of Heaven Guo's punches and kicks became extremely terrifying even though he could not use any martial arts. Yi Fei was very surprised to discover that the Lord of Heaven Guo had actually cultivated a physical divine ability. Activating a physical divine ability required divine power, not mystic energy. In addition, the Lord of Heaven Guo had a layer of Tier 5 armor on his body. This allowed the Lord of Heaven Guo to use his divine power without any qualms. Under this divine ability, the Lord of Heaven Guo's punches and kicks became the toughest weapons. Palms, kicks, punches, and slashes. The whistling divine power created violent shockwaves in the air. Although the 100-legged centipede was an extremely powerful sovereign realm fiend king, it was still beaten into a pulp in the face of the Lord of Heaven Guo's storm-like physical divine ability. In less than a dozen breaths, it was beaten into a pile of mush and fell limply to the ground. Yi Fei saw that the Lord of Heaven Guo had killed the 100-legged centipede, but didn't take its core. He couldn't help but be puzzled. Senior, don't you want the core of the vicious beasts? The Lord of Heaven Guo said disdainfully. It's just a core. This lord doesn't care about it at all. Since his senior didn't want it, Yi Fei naturally wouldn't be polite. He dug out the 100-legged centipede's core on the spot. The Lord of Heaven Guo couldn't help but laugh when he saw Yi Fei's actions. However, he didn't notice that after Yi Fei took the core, the dragon turtle's head sneakily poked out of his sleeve. Its mouth was as fast as lightning, and it swallowed the core into its stomach. Squeak, squeak. At this time, Xiao Chao also noticed something and hurriedly reminded Yi Fei. Yi Fei's expression changed. He suddenly raised the dark steel heavy sword in his hand and fiercely swung it at a patch of grass not far away. Amidst the flying mud, a blood snake as thick as an arm suddenly darted out with an extremely cold gaze. It stared at Yi Fei with a cold gaze. What is this? The Lord of Heaven Guo reacted quickly. He instantly moved and appeared in front of the blood snake. He hurriedly grabbed at the blood snake with his fingers. The blood snake immediately opened its mouth wide, revealing its sharp fangs. It avoided the hand and bit at the Lord of Heaven Guo's wrist. However, it didn't succeed. At the critical moment, the armor on the Lord of Heaven Guo's body released a divine light that perfectly protected his arm. On the other hand, the blood snake's fangs were broken. In the end, its entire body was slapped into a bloody pulp by the Lord of Heaven Guo. Hiss! The death of this blood snake aroused the anger of the surrounding blood snakes. In an instant, even more blood snakes rushed in from all directions. A small number of them attacked Yi Fei, but most of them attacked Yi Fei with all their might, as if they had a deep grudge against Yi Fei. However, no matter how many blood snakes there were, they weren't even celestial venerables. They couldn't hurt Yi Fei at all. Instead, Yi Fei casually swung his dark steel heavy sword and killed a large number of blood snakes that approached him. A large cloud of blood mist appeared in midair. These blood snakes didn't have flesh. They were formed purely from blood. Be careful. These blood snakes are strange. They could be the clones of some powerful vicious beast. The Lord of Heaven warned in a low voice. At this time, he had already killed all the blood snakes around him and was closing in on Yi Fei. Yi Fei's heart suddenly skipped a beat. These blood snakes are clones? And they hate me so much. Could it be that soaring serpent's doing? Chapter 21:11. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Chao seemed to have discovered something again. Suddenly, he pointed anxiously in a direction. It was a hill that had been swallowed up by the heavenly abode. The green grass on the hill suddenly bulged rapidly and turned into a cold, green python. As for the two rocks on the hill, countless pieces of rubble were sent flying, revealing a pair of huge snake eyes that were bigger than lanterns and filled with coldness. This time, this snake king will definitely kill all of you and then devour that savage little girl. Hiss, hiss. The flying serpent let out a cold hiss. Its venomous snake eyes stared coldly at Yi Fei. Snakes were the most vengeful of all. Putting aside the fact that Yi Fei had stolen the flying serpent's Dragon Ball, the flying serpent had been captured by Xiao Chao 2 years ago. Not only had it been beaten until it doubted its life as a snake, but it had also been jumped around by Xiao Chao like a skipping rope. This had made the flying serpent feel greatly humiliated. Now, it was time for the flying serpent to take its revenge. As the flying serpent let out a hiss, a large number of black-robed snake slaves rushed out from the darkness in the distance. They held snake staffs in their hands. As the flying serpent let out a hiss, the staffs suddenly rose into the air and turned into flying serpents. They roared and slithered as they charged towards the flying serpent at lightning speed. On the hill where the flying serpent hid. Then, the two identical flying serpents twisted and entangled with each other. They rolled on the ground and merged from two flying serpents into a single flying serpent. The merged flying serpent pounced on the other flying serpents that were flying towards it. It twisted and entangled again for the third time and the fourth time. The fifth time, they merged again and again. Boom! The flying serpent's aura and cultivation level increased rapidly as it merged. At this moment, Yi Fei finally understood why this earthly venerable flying serpent was so difficult to kill. There was not just one flying serpent, but hundreds and thousands of them. This is strange. What kind of cultivation technique is this? It can make a flying serpent create so many clones. And those snake slaves, why are they not affected by the darkness of the heavenly abode and can use martial arts? Yi Fei was shocked to see that the black-robed people holding snake staffs were not running. Instead of running over, he flew over. This scene gave Yi Fei a fright. The Lord Heaven Guo's expression was even more solemn. He cursed in a deep voice, "Damn it! These are the serpent gods of the West Qin Kingdom." Legend has it that 3 years ago, the Serpent God King was about to become a Tao Lord, but he was ambushed and killed by the Tao Lord of the West Qin imperial family. The Serpent God clan was destroyed overnight. So many snake slaves escaped to the Baiyun nation. Yi Fei's face suddenly twitched. After all this time, the one that Xiao Chao had been jumping around like a straw rope wasn't an earthly venerable flying snake at all. Instead, it was the divine Snake King, who was close to becoming a Tao Lord. It was no wonder that the earth-exalted flying snake was so difficult to kill. Furthermore, it possessed a precious dragon pearl that could poison a sovereign to death. What was even more frightening was that the soaring serpent had cultivated an unknown technique that allowed it to create countless clones. On the surface, these clones appeared to be of the earthly venerable realm, but once these clones gathered together, they would fuse together. Once they fused together, the soaring serpent's cultivation level would skyrocket. In the short time that Yi Fei had been speaking to the Lord of Heaven, the divine Snake King had already fused with at least 50 soaring serpent clones. Its cultivation level had also risen rapidly from the earthly venerable realm to the heavenly venerable realm. Moreover, its cultivation level was still rising rapidly. As more and more soaring serpent clones fused with the main body, the soaring serpent's body began to exude the aura of a sovereign. Yi Fei's face darkened. Senior Guo, we can't let the soaring serpent continue fusing like this. Otherwise, when it recovers to the level of a Dao Lord, we'll all die here. At that moment, an uncontrollable murderous intent welled up in Yi Fei's heart. The Lord of Heaven beside him had an extremely ugly expression. We can't attack here. I can't fully unleash the Lord of Heaven's cultivation level in this dark fog. Besides, there are so many snake slaves. We can't kill them all. Yi Fei, follow me. We'll continue charging into the interior of the paradise world. We still have to go deeper? Yi Fei's expression turned even uglier. Although he had already broken through to the sovereign realm, it was still very dangerous for him to be pursued by a soaring serpent that was close to the level of a Dao Lord. However, the Lord of Heaven didn't give Yi Fei a chance to refuse. He took advantage of the fact that the soaring serpent was still fusing with its numerous clones. His hand was like an eagle's claw. He grabbed Yi Fei's shoulder and lifted him up before charging deeper into the darkness. Yi Fei immediately felt a sharp pain shoot through his shoulder. It was clear how hard the Lord of Heaven was grabbing him. It's over. This person says that he's trying to rope me in, but he won't even care if I live or die when we're in danger. Now that he's dragging me along so forcefully, there's an 80% chance that he's up to no good. Yi Fei's expression was dark, but there was nothing he could do. After all, the difference in cultivation level between them was obvious. This Lord of Heaven cultivated a physical mystique, and his divine strength was astonishing. Unless Yi Fei could release his golden body of laws, there was no way he could resist. Yi Fei couldn't be bothered to resist. He allowed the Lord of Heaven to grab him and charge into the boundless darkness. In the dark, Yi Fei was constantly communicating with Xiao Qiao and the dragon turtle. He was waiting for an opportunity to break free from the Lord of Heaven's control and escape. Yi Fei had even ordered the dragon turtle to be prepared. When the Lord of Heaven was ready, the Lord of Heaven would release some poison. However, the Lord of Heaven's shrewdness exceeded Yi Fei's expectations. As he grabbed Yi Fei and charged into the darkness, the Lord of Heaven asked coldly, "Yi Fei, where's that black turtle that can release poison? Let it out. It's best if it can poison those snake slaves. Even if it can't poison them, it can intimidate the other vicious beasts in the darkness. The vicious beasts won't dare to come close." One had to know that the flying serpent wasn't the only vicious beasts in this darkness. There were many other vicious beasts hidden in the darkness. The dragon turtle's poisonous wind could, to a certain extent, intimidate these vicious beasts. Yi Fei cursed in his heart, but under the urging of the Lord of Heaven, he could only reluctantly release the dragon turtle. Then, he had the dragon turtle blow the poisonous wind behind him. It's the power of the poisonous dragon pearl. Damned pig, last time you extorted this Snake King's dragon pearl, I haven't settled the score with you yet, and now you dare to completely refine it. Hiss hiss hiss. Snake slave, capture that black pig for me. When it realized that the dragon turtle had refined the dragon pearl, the flying serpent, who had merged with its doppelganger and reached the late-stage sovereign realm, was so angry that its eyes spat out intense flames. The dragon turtle was so frightened that its black mouth turned white. Without the urging of the Lord of Heaven, the dragon turtle became extremely energetic. It only hated that it was too far away and couldn't bite the flying serpent to death. However, there were still a small number of snake sovereigns who were chasing after the dragon turtle. They were dizzy from the poisonous wind. Enraged, they suddenly let out bellows-like roars. Then, countless snake scales suddenly grew on their faces. The instant they put their feet together, they rolled on the ground. Chapter 21:12. From the Lord of Heaven Guo's words, Yi Fei obtained a very important piece of information. As expected, the Lord of Heaven Guo was only passing by to investigate the Tao Enlightenment Stone. This person's true objective was actually this Grotto Heaven realm. Could it be? What kind of treasure does this Grotto Heaven realm have? Otherwise, the Medicine Master Manor would have already lost a Lord of Heaven. Why would they send another Lord of Heaven, who is proficient in physical prowess, fully armed to the teeth to attack this place? Yi Fei thought to himself. The Lord of Heaven Guo had no intention of letting him go. Firstly, Yi Fei's talent was not bad. He was also a grandmaster of spiritual augmentation. Secondly, the Lord of Heaven Guo was afraid that once the soaring serpent recovered its cultivation level close to that of a Tao Lord, he might not be able to defeat it. At this time, handing over Yi Fei as a hostage and seeking a compromise with the soaring serpent was of utmost importance. Yes. Thus, the Lord of Heaven Guo not only held Yi Fei tightly, but also ran as fast as lightning. With a few leaps, he had covered a distance of several thousand meters. It looked like he was about to charge into the thick fog and shake off his pursuers. Boom! But at this moment, the soaring serpent, which had already fused with its doppelganger and recovered to its late-stage sovereign level, moved. It let out an unknown roar, and the vicious beasts hidden in the depths of the darkness rushed out one by one, madly pouncing on the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle was instantly enraged. It unhygienically spat out a mouthful of dragon saliva in the direction of the soaring serpent. It turned out that the soaring serpent's roar had not only betrayed Xiao Qiao, but also the dragon turtle. It had let the vicious beasts in hiding know that Yi Fei had a spirit treasure of heaven and earth hidden in his body. He could instantly break through to the Lord of Heaven and even become a Tao Lord. At the same time, the poison dragon pearl refined in the dragon turtle's body had also attracted the interest of some of the vicious beasts. Not long after he heard the flying dragon snake's roar, a compound-eyed spider the size of a buffalo suddenly jumped out from the depths of the darkness like a spring. This spider was very cunning as it weaved a web in the void. Those threads accidentally wrapped around a ruler realm vicious beast. The vicious beast's skin immediately turned green, and their flesh rotted away on the spot. Yi Fei and the dragon turtle felt their scalps go numb. This was especially true for Yi Fei. His martial arts and mystiques were all suppressed here. He couldn't unleash his full power at all. Golden body of laws. Without the golden body of laws, if he were to be entangled by the spiderwebs with just his physical strength, his fate would be no better than that of the vicious beast. It's a corrosive dragon spider. I finally know how the Medicine King Valley's Lord of Heaven died. Yi Fei, if you don't want to die, go and deal with the ordinary vicious beast. Leave this dragon spider to me. The Lord of Heaven's expression was filled with excitement. Faced with a corrosive dragon spider that could poison even the Lord of Heaven to death, he finally let go of Yi Fei. He used his physical mystique and charged at the dragon spider. This dragon spider was undoubtedly one of the overlords of this dark fog. It was only a late-stage ruler, but it relied on its unique corrosive spiderwebs. However, it was able to pose a huge threat to the Lord of Heaven. At this moment, the dragon spider and the Lord of Heaven were engaged in a head-on battle. It spat out a large number of threads that were as hard as divine weapons. They cut fine cracks in space and instantly wrapped around the Lord of Heaven. Shake! The Lord of Heaven exhaled and uttered an incantation. At the same time, 3 runes lit up on the 5th-grade armor on his body. This raised his defense to a whole new level. Not only did it block the threads, but it also shattered all the threads that wrapped around his body. This action completely enraged the dragon spider. When it realized that one of its threads was useless, the dragon spider stood up on its hind legs and spat out a dozen more threads from its abdomen, dyeing the sky white. The dragon spider stepped on these threads and strolled through the void. The Lord of Heaven was entangled with it. Kill him! Avenge Master! Hiss, hiss. The angry roars of a group of snakes came from the distance. It was the expert of the snake slaves. At this moment, they were chasing after Yi Fei. Yi Fei, take this. This is a dragon strength pill. It can greatly increase your strength. Suddenly, a pill flew over from afar. The Lord of Heaven was currently using all his strength to deal with the corrosive dragon spider. He was most afraid of being ambushed by the other vicious beasts and snake slaves. Thus, he endured the pain and threw a precious dragon strength pill to Yi Fei. Yi Fei's eyes lit up. The Shunli pill was a pill that could increase the strength of a supreme being. As for the dragon strength pill, it was a pill that could increase the strength of a sovereign or Lord of Heaven. He had previously inquired about this in detail at the Divine Star Academy. However, the dragon strength pill was too extravagant. Even the Divine Star Academy didn't have it. Needless to say, the Lord of Heaven must have consumed a large amount of dragon strength pills and forcefully accumulated them for him to have such a strong physical body. Even so, Yi Fei still secretly let the dragon turtle check it. After confirming that there was no poison, he swallowed the dragon strength pill and instantly refined it. Instantly, his entire body became boiling hot. It was as if his flesh and blood cells were burning fiercely. At the same time, Yi Fei's divine strength also broke through the limit of 100,000 kilograms of divine strength, reaching 110,000 kilograms. A single dragon strength pill had actually increased his divine strength by 10,000 kilograms. Didn't this mean that as long as the dragon strength pill was enough, his divine strength would soon break through the limit of a sovereign and reach 200,000 kilograms? Just thinking about that kind of strength made Yi Fei so excited that his entire body trembled. Roar! Then, the dragon turtle roared miserably as it was being trampled on. Just as Yi Fei swallowed the dragon strength pill, the dragon turtle also perked up. It chose a buck that looked the weakest and charged towards it. The tragedy was, the dragon turtle was lazy and gluttonous all day long. It looked quite strong, but in reality, it was only strong on the outside and weak on the inside. The buck's antlers were just the antlers of the buck, and the dragon turtle was knocked to the ground. Before it could get up, the buck's 4 hooves were already stepping on the dragon turtle's body in disdain. The dragon turtle couldn't even turn over. The dragon turtle had no choice but to quickly ask Yi Fei for help. Yi Fei felt an inexplicable bitterness in his heart. That buck was only at the heavenly venerable realm. In the end, the dragon turtle, who ate magnetite, couldn't even defeat a grass-eating one. However, even though the dragon turtle was strong on the outside but weak on the inside, it wasn't completely useless. The dragon turtle's flesh was too fat, and its shell was correspondingly very thick. Even though it was knocked to the ground by the buck, no matter how the buck attacked, it couldn't break the dragon turtle's shell. Instead, the dragon turtle's thick flesh, when the meat was attacked, it actually produced an astonishing rebound. With a bang, the stag was instantly sent flying. The dragon turtle was dumbfounded. The dragon turtle touched its head with its claws, not understanding what was going on. Yi Fei and Xiao Chao were completely dumbfounded. At the same time, the snake slaves, who had completely turned into beasts, let out shrill laughter as they surrounded Yi Fei from all directions. Boom! Chapter 21:13. Of course, during this period, Yi Fei was also constantly attacked by the serpent slave's violent divine ability attacks, forcing him to continuously retreat and use the black iron heavy sword as a shield. Only then was he able to barely block the serpent slave's attacks. At this time, the dragon turtle also came over to help, continuously spitting out poison dragon pearls. Under the dragon turtle's control, the dragon pearl transformed into an incomparably green venomous dragon fang. As long as one was bitten by this venomous dragon fang, even a sovereign would be poisoned to the ground. If one didn't expel the poison in time, one's life would be in danger. To a certain extent, This relieved some of the pressure on Yi Fei. However, there were too many snake slaves. Under the soaring serpent's command, these snake slaves were all fearless. After Yi Fei killed a batch, another batch would immediately rush up. He couldn't kill them all. If it weren't for the dragon strength pill, which contained medicinal power, it would continuously replenish his divine power. Yi Fei reckoned that he had already exhausted his divine power and could only be captured alive by these snake slaves. No, I can't continue fighting. While the dragon turtle and I still have strength, and the Lord of Heaven Gua is blocked by the dragon spider, this is the best chance for me to escape. Kill. Yi Fei's killing intent surged. Using all his strength, he swung his heavy sword again. The whistling heavy sword instantly shattered space and smashed a large number of snake slaves to death. Then, Yi Fei pulled out his sword and left. He jumped onto the dragon turtle's back and prepared to fight his way out. Hiss, hiss, Yi Fei, where are you going? Leave your life behind. This snake king will eat you alive. The soaring serpent's loud roar came from afar. At the same time, a terrifying aura of the Lord of Heaven swept over like an avalanche. Not only did the vicious beasts around them turn pale in fright, but they also retreated in panic. Yi Fei was so frightened that he felt a chill run down his spine. He secretly regretted it. If he had known that the soaring serpent was so vengeful, he would have crushed it to death when Xiao Chao caught it. When they heard the soaring serpent's roar, the snake slaves that had been frightened by Yi Fei's ferocity suddenly became even more frenzied. They attacked Yi Fei without regard for their lives. Roar! Right at this moment, the blood-curdling screams of the corrosive dragon spider came from not too far away. The Lord of Heaven Guo was truly ferocious. He relied on his powerful physical god art and fifth-grade armor to forcefully withstand the web and corrosion and beat the corrosive dragon spider to death. However, the Lord of Heaven's face had also become pale. Evidently, killing the dragon spiders had consumed a great deal of his energy. Now that he could sense the flying serpent's aura in the distance, the Lord of Heaven's face fell, and he became even more determined to capture Yi Fei as a hostage at this critical moment. That way, there would be a chance for him to reconcile with the flying serpent. Get lost. Yi Fei, take this black tortoise and follow me. The Lord of Heaven, clad in armor, was like an invulnerable general on the battlefield. He charged over from afar and slapped away a large number of snake slaves on the spot. His eagle-like hand once again grabbed Yi Fei's shoulder. That astonishing strength instantly grabbed Yi Fei's shoulder. It covered a deep wound. Yi Fei was instantly enraged, but he put on a bitter smile and said, "Senior Gua, you should let me go and leave on your own. That flying serpent's target is me, it has nothing to do with you." The Lord of Heaven was a little tempted, but then he shook his head inwardly. Snakes are cruel and cunning by nature. Even if I let him go, the Serpent King might not let me go. On the other hand, if I capture Yi Fei, I will have the capital to negotiate with the Serpent King. Although he did not know why the flying serpent hated Yi Fei so much, the Lord of Heaven was no fool. He could clearly see that the flying serpent valued Yi Fei very much. This kind of importance made the flying serpent willing to sacrifice hundreds of snake slaves just to capture Yi Fei. One had to know that even though the snake slaves could shapeshift and were not affected by the dark fog, they were not real vicious beasts. They were half human, half beast, so they naturally could not gain the recognition of the vicious beast. Since the vicious beasts in the dark fog could attack Yi Fei and the others, they would naturally attack these strange snake slaves as well. Follow me. While the Serpent King still needs some time to fuse with its avatar, as long as we can successfully enter the paradise world, we will be safe. Unexpectedly, in the face of the flying serpent that could fuse with its avatar at any time, not only did the Lord of Heaven not escape from the dark fog, he even planned to go deeper. Not only was this risky, it was also very illogical. Yi Fei could not help but ask curiously, "If we go deeper, aren't you afraid?" That the flying serpent will recover its cultivation and kill us all? Snakes are vengeful creatures, and that flying serpent will definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. You don't need to provoke me. Although that flying serpent is powerful, it is only dominating the dark fog. Once I successfully enter the paradise world and completely recover my martial arts and divine abilities, if that flying serpent dares to attack us, I will still kill it. The Lord of Heaven was very confident. Yi Fei's heart thumped. Entering the paradise world would actually allow one to recover their martial arts and divine abilities. But that won't do. The flying serpent is close to becoming a Tao Lord, and it has so many snake slaves as subordinates. So what? It has subordinates, but so do I. As long as I enter the paradise world, I will be able to set up a teleportation platform that connects directly to the Medicine Manor. At that time, the Lord of Heaven of the Medicine Manor will all rush over. No matter how strong that flying serpent is, it will still die. The Lord of Heaven's expression was cold and arrogant. Hearing this, Yi Fei's face turned even paler. Just the Lord of Heaven alone was enough to suppress him. If the Lord of Heaven of the Medicine Manor all rushed over, wouldn't he be at the mercy of others? He might even be silenced. No, I have to think of a way to get out of this predicament. Yi Fei's heart was heavy, but he put on a simple and honest smile. Senior Guo is indeed meticulous. But won't the Clear Cloud Pavilion have any objections to what the Medicine Manor has done? The Lord of Heaven looked at Yi Fei with a cold smile. These were secrets that could not be revealed to outsiders. However, he also felt that after going through all this, Yi Fei would either submit to the Medicine Manor wholeheartedly and become their slave, or he would be a dead man. It did not matter if he knew these secrets. He spoke calmly. The Clear Cloud Pavilion will definitely not have any objections, because they would never have thought that the Bayou Nation has not only one paradise world, but two. The first paradise world is a forbidden land. Anyone who steps into it will die. Even old man Qing Yun does not dare to step into it. When the darkness invaded Herb Mountain, we also thought that it was the forbidden paradise world and had no choice but to evacuate. Not long ago, His Highness flipped through countless ancient records and shockingly discovered that there was not only one paradise world in the Bayou Nation, but two. Moreover, it is different from the first paradise, which is a place of certain death. The second paradise world appeared once in the Bayou Nation 3,000 years ago. However, it was also at that time that someone obtained a precious spiritual item of heaven and earth and became a Tao Lord in one fell swoop. Do you know who this Tao Lord was? That's right. He is the Bayun Tao Lord, the current Bayun God. The Lord of Heaven's expression revealed a hint of fanaticism and greed. Just like in the underworld, any spiritual item of heaven and earth was something that warriors yearned for. This was also the reason why Yi Fei never dared to let outsiders know about the existence of Xiao Chao. Needless to say, the Medicine Manor had sent the powerful Lord of Heaven into the thick fog to find the entrance to the paradise world and then search for the spiritual item of heaven and earth that existed in the paradise world. Look, the entrance to the paradise world is in front. After running for an unknown amount of time in the dark fog, a beam of light suddenly appeared in front of them. Upon closer inspection, it was actually a huge crystal wall. This crystal wall was actually the world's barrier. There was a crack on the barrier. Chapter 21:14. Roar 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 roar. This. Yi Fei was stunned when he saw the entrance to the grotto heaven. Xiao Chao was stunned, and so was the dragon turtle. They both felt that the wall looked very familiar, as if they had seen it somewhere before. Seeing Yi Fei's surprised expression, the Lord of Heaven smiled disdainfully. He felt that Yi Fei was still too young and inexperienced. It was just the entrance to a grotto heaven. What was there to be surprised about? However, the Lord of Heaven was cautious and did not immediately enter. After all, the Lord of Heaven of Medicine King Valley had once perished outside this grotto heaven. Although the Lord of Heaven of Medicine King Manor later investigated and found that it was very likely that the Lord of Heaven had been ambushed and killed by corrosive dragon spiders, the Lord of Heaven still carefully glanced at Yi Fei. Yi Fei, enter the grotto heaven and take a look at the situation. I will help you fend off the snake slaves behind you. A strange look flashed through the Lord of Heaven's eyes. Yi Fei did not seem to notice. He still had a simple and honest smile on his face. How would I dare to disobey the Lord of Heaven's command? I will go in now and scout the way for you. As he spoke, Yi Fei strode into the grotto heaven. The Lord of Heaven was very satisfied with Yi Fei's cooperation. However, when he heard the furious roars of the flying serpent chasing after them, the Lord of Heaven shook his head and sighed coldly. What a pity! This Yi Fei is quite talented and sensible. If I could recruit him, he might have a chance of becoming the Lord of Heaven in the future. Unfortunately, he has offended too many people. The imperial family of the Sky River, the Green Cloud Pavilion, and now he has even offended the Serpent King of the Serpent Gods. This is going to be tricky. The Lord of Heaven stared at the enormous flying serpent which was rapidly drawing closer to him. He could sense the flying serpent's furious killing intent as well as the aura of a half-step Dowlord. The Lord of Heaven finally made up his mind. Just as he was forcing Yi Fei to enter the interior of the crystal wall and scout the way for him, Guo, the Lord of Heaven, was already walking forward with a smile on his face. He cupped his hands towards the soaring serpent and said, I have long heard of the great name of the Serpent King. I am Guo, the Lord of Heaven of the Medicine Manor. I am willing to hand over Yi Fei and resolve the grudge between us. What do you think, Snake King? Who do you think you are? You're nothing more than a lowly human. A year ago, the old patriarch fell for the West Qin Imperial clan's scheme and missed out on the opportunity to break through to become a Dowlord. He had no choice but to create hundreds of clones and risk his life to escape. Do you think the old patriarch will still trust you now? As for that Yi Fei and that pig, I want to squash them with my own hands. Bang! The enormous soaring serpent transformed into a sinister-looking old man in midair. This old man looked quite similar to the serpent lord that Yi Fei had slain. What Yi Fei didn't know was that the serpent lord he had slain was actually one of the soaring serpent's human clones. Unfortunately, the soaring serpent had been unlucky enough to run into Xiao Qiao. He hadn't even had a chance to use any of his techniques before Xiao Qiao had beaten him to the point where he doubted his life as a snake and was forced to beg for mercy. This was the greatest humiliation for the soaring serpent, who had nearly broken through to become a Dowlord. There was only one way for him to erase this humiliation, and that was to tear Yi Fei and the dragon turtle to shreds, then devour Xiao Qiao. The Lord of Heaven didn't come in himself, but instead sent me in to scout ahead. There's an 80% chance that there's some unknown danger here, and he wants me to be his scapegoat. Not only that, he's also very meticulous and ruthless. He sent me away in advance because he wanted to negotiate with the soaring serpent. When he thought of this, Yi Fei suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. It was fine that the Lord of Heaven had only used him to scout ahead, but if the Lord of Heaven really did come to some sort of compromise with the soaring serpent as he feared, then facing two Lords of Heaven at the same time would mean certain death for him, even if he had the golden body of laws. This won't do. Let's run while we still have the chance. Dragon Turtle, run faster. Let's get out of this forest, Yi Fei said in a low voice. He passed through the gray space passageway and entered a strange forest within the heavenly abode. The trees in this forest were ridiculously tall. Even the shortest ones were 100 meters tall, while the tallest ones were 1,000 meters tall. It was a very primitive and terrifying place. Fortunately, there were only trees here, and no terrifying vicious beasts. This was also the best chance for Yi Fei to escape the Lord of Heaven. However, Yi Fei underestimated the Lord of Heaven's caution. Just as he entered the gray space, the Lord of Heaven had secretly left a divine sense imprint on Yi Fei's body. When he sensed that Yi Fei had rushed in without any danger, the Lord of Heaven had already left a divine sense imprint on him. The Lord of Heaven, who had failed in his negotiations outside, did not wait for the group of snake slaves to rush in. The Lord of Heaven also rushed in and immediately shouted at Yi Fei, "Yi Fei, come to my side quickly. I will protect your safety. Senior Gua, you can leave on your own. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will lure the enemy away for you." Yi Fei replied loudly, but he was secretly urging the dragon turtle to run faster. "Kid, let's see if you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." The Lord of Heaven was furious. He suddenly regretted letting Yi Fei in ahead of time. Originally, he had wanted to use Yi Fei to temporarily hold off the group of snake slaves and attract the soaring serpent's attention. This way, he would be able to set up the teleportation platform calmly and send in the troops of the medicine master manner. However, the soaring serpent, who had almost become a Tao Lord, was not easy to fool. While he was mainly chasing after Yi Fei, the soaring serpent still had a deep distrust of the human race. He ordered the snake slaves who had followed him in to hold back the Lord of Heaven at all costs. At the same time, the soaring serpent transformed into a sinister old man and furiously chased after Yi Fei. Cold sweat broke out on Yi Fei's forehead. He urged the dragon turtle, "Big Black, hurry up and run. This soaring serpent hates you to the core. If he catches up to you, he will definitely eat you first." The dragon turtle's face was ashen. Suddenly, he seemed to have made up his mind. The dragon turtle roared loudly. As he ran for his life, he suddenly raised his tortoiseshell and spat out a long and loud tail of flames. Apart from the rolling dragon flames and demon aura, the flames also contained the toxic properties of the poison dragon pearl. Even the pursuing soaring serpent couldn't help but retch. Then, the soaring serpent let out an enraged roar that caused the ground to shake violently. "Hey, black pig, if I don't eat you today, I'll turn into a turtle. Kill, kill, kill. Death gaze." Boom. The soaring serpent's human head suddenly shook and turned into a gigantic serpent's head. The pair of lantern-like eyes on the serpent's head were like cold lightning. The cold gaze instantly turned into a solid beam of light that suddenly blasted towards the surrounding tall trees. The soaring serpent's goal was very simple. It wanted to pierce through these huge trees that were hundreds of meters tall and create a huge falling tree. Even if it couldn't kill Yi Fei and the dragon turtle, it could at least cut off their escape route. When he turned around and saw the soaring serpent's actions, Yi Fei's expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to control the dragon turtle to change direction, he was shocked to see that the tall trees that were about to be hit by the soaring serpent's eyes suddenly moved. At the same time, a huge divine tree arm suddenly appeared from the dense foliage. It stretched out from the trees. Boom! Chapter 21:15. Yi Fei's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. After all, the soaring serpent was close to becoming a Tao Lord. In Azure Province, the soaring serpent could do whatever it wanted unless a Tao Lord appeared. But even so, the soaring serpent had already been slapped to the point of lying in the pit like a dead dog. Then, just how terrifying was the strength of the owner of this divine wood arm? How is this possible? How can there be a half-step Tao Lord Trant here? Shouldn't they have gone extinct a long time ago? Hiss! From the crater, the soaring serpent charged out. Its gigantic snake head had returned to its human form. Its face was filled with terror and shock. Seeing that the soaring serpent could still move after taking a palm strike, when it saw that the soaring serpent was still moving, a thunderous roar came from above Yi Fei's head. It sounded like the friction of huge trees or the beating of war drums. He finally saw the full appearance of the Treant warrior. It was a huge, ancient tree that was 1,000 meters tall. The Treant warrior's arms were its leaves, its trunk was its body, its crown was its face, and its roots were its feet. It was so huge that it was even more terrifying than the Tyrannosauruses Yi Fei had seen in the Earth domain. The Tyrannosauruses were only big, but their cultivation levels were not high. However, the Treant warrior was different. The strength of its palm was enough to injure a half-step Tao Lord. However, the soaring serpent was not an ordinary half-step Tao Lord. It had almost become a Tao Lord in the past. When it discovered the Treant warrior, the soaring serpent's body suddenly became extremely thin and small, like a withered little old man. However, the power that the soaring serpent unleashed was extremely terrifying. The soaring serpent let out a sharp hiss. The terrifying dark force of a half-step Tao Lord had already formed a huge green python. The python's body was still expanding. In the blink of an eye, it had become bigger than a mountain and longer than a river. Like a rope, it frantically coiled around the Treant warrior. Boom! However, at that moment, another huge divine wood arm suddenly stretched out from another direction. The Treant warrior slapped both of its arms at the soaring serpent. Its power caused the void to explode. The whistling waves of air formed an even more terrifying spatial hurricane that blew Yi Fei off his feet. Facing the Treant warrior's divine wood attack directly, a look of shock and coldness flashed across the soaring serpent's face. Then, it spread its 10 fingers and suddenly burst out 10 green fiery palms. All plants were extremely afraid of fire. Clearly, the soaring serpent's combat experience was extremely rich. Soaring serpent had only been sent flying. The serious soaring serpent was also incomparably terrifying. At this moment, the huge green python formed from profound energy coiled around the Trent's body like a bolt of lightning. In the air, the soaring serpent's sinister laughter rang out. "I don't care if you're a Treant or a tree demon. Since you've offended old ancestor, I'll still turn you into ashes." Boom! The soaring serpent's 10 fingers burst out with green poisonous flames. Under the transformation of his divine ability and dark force, the poisonous flames quickly transformed into 10 green sky fire pythons. 5 of them pounced at the Treant warrior, while the remaining 5 pounced at Yi Fei. "Shameless soaring serpent! If I catch you, I'll let Xiao Qiao beat you to death." Yi Fei cursed inwardly. He did not dare to take on the poisonous flame divine ability of a half-step Tao Lord. With a thought, he suddenly retreated quickly behind another huge tree. Then, Yi Fei felt a large patch of black above his head. That was not the soaring serpent's divine ability. Instead, it was 5 huge divine wood arms that slapped down from the sky at the same time. They collided with the green sky fire pythons. Only 5 thunderous booms could be heard. Yi Fei was shocked to see that. The 5 green sky fire pythons that had been chasing after him had been smashed into pieces by the newly appeared divine wood palms, turning into scattered green sparks. At the same time, Yi Fei heard the soaring serpent's blood-curdling screams. Only then did Yi Fei realize in shock that this heavenly abode was not a forest at all. It was clearly filled with giant Treants. These Treants were not only terrifyingly strong. What was even more strange was that when they stood still, they were the same. It was no different from an ordinary ancient tree. Even little grass was unable to sense the profound energy fluctuations of these Treants, so naturally, she was unable to discover them. Furthermore, as these Treants awakened one after another, the soaring serpent's resistance grew weaker and weaker. In the end, the soaring serpent let out another miserable cry as it was struck by the divine wood palms of 3 Treants. It was smashed into the ground. "Hiss, Treants, just you wait. I will remember what happened today." The soaring serpent was heavily injured and could no longer maintain its human form. However, the soaring serpent still had a life-saving trump card. The moment it was smashed into the ground, it had already reverted to its snake form. At the same time, the snake body suddenly split into nothingness. Countless soaring serpent clones began to break out of the encirclement in all directions. This was the soaring serpent's most powerful life-saving trump card. Even the Tao Lord of the royal family of the Western Qin Kingdom did not have a good way to deal with the soaring serpent's strange ability of infinite clones. Unfortunately, the soaring serpent did not encounter the royal family of the Western Qin Kingdom this time, but these terrifying treants. After discovering that the soaring serpent was trying to escape with infinite clones, a majestic and angry roar suddenly came from among the treants. The ground where Yi Fei was standing suddenly shook violently. Then, countless roots rose from the ground and turned into sharp iron and wood spears, continuously stabbing at the flying serpent's avatar. They were nailed to the ground. Then, another treant suddenly bent down and grabbed at the flying serpent's vital point. The flying serpent screamed in agony as it was pinched at its vital point. It hung in the air like a noodle, unable to move anymore. Bam! On the other side of the sky, there was also a shocking explosion. The Lord of Heaven roared in anger and horror. Why are there treants here? My fifth-tier armor. There was no need to ask to know that the Lord of Heaven had also encountered the treants. Only with the powerful defense of the fifth-tier armor, the Lord of Heaven actually lasted a little longer than the soaring serpent before he was beaten into a dead dog and fell from the sky. As for the snake slaves, after the Lord of Heaven was captured, they immediately became the targets of the treants. Screams and explosions kept coming. Yi Fei did not need to think to know that the snake slaves died under the power of the treant. Boom! Just as Yi Fei was thinking, the treants who had captured the soaring serpent quickly turned Yi Fei into a target. Suddenly, a divine wood palm fell from the sky, wanting to slap Yi Fei to death like the snake slaves. Golden Body of Laws. Chapter 21:16. Seeing that Yi Fei was still alive and kicking after being smashed into the ground, the surrounding treemen were shocked. Then, without saying a word, 7 to 8 giant divine wood palms fell at the same time, wanting to smash Yi Fei to death on the ground. At the critical moment of life and death, Yi Fei unleashed all his potential. He took out his dark steel heavy sword, which was as heavy as a mountain. He swung it forward, but not to attack the treemen. Instead, he used the dazzling sword light from the dark steel heavy sword to block the sight of the treemen. Blackie, hurry up and run on the ground. Run through the gaps between them. Boom! In less than a breath's time, Yi Fei's sword light was completely shattered by the divine tree palm. However, at this moment, it understood that if it escaped into the air, it would be a living target. The dragon turtle had already quickly landed on the ground. It even ran quickly through the gaps between the huge treemen, allowing the treemen to slap it. The palms missed again, but only created 7 to 8 deep holes in the ground. A surprised voice came from the tall treetops, but it quickly turned into an angry roar. Suddenly, the entire forest shook violently. The hundreds of tall trees suddenly turned into hundreds of terrifying treemen. At the same time, they surrounded them from all directions. At this moment, countless roots rose from the ground like huge and tough vines. They turned into sharp ironwood spears and stabbed towards Yi Fei and the dragon turtle from all directions. The dragon turtle was so scared that its black mouth turned pale. Yi Fei's forehead was also covered in cold sweat. Then, endless thunderbolts exploded from his body. Yi Fei used the 5 Thunder Divine Clock again. The endless thunderbolts condensed into 8 huge thunderbolt dragons. With a whistling sound and fierce thunder and fire, they blasted towards the iron wood. At this moment, the dragon tortoise suddenly opened its mouth and spewed out endless dragon flame demonic fire. Within the fire, there was also a poisonous wind. With a whistling sound, thunder, fire, and poisonous wind, it completely enveloped the world. It also caused the vines that were piercing to show signs of being burned. Kill. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Fei raised his black iron heavy sword with both hands and used his greatest strength to cut off all the flaming tree root. The dragon turtle beneath his feet also brandished its dragon claws. Demonic flames surged on its claws as it tried to pry the roots apart. But soon Yi Fei was shocked to find that his dark steel heavy sword had slashed down. These roots actually emitted a metallic sound. His expression instantly changed. Thunder and demonic fire can subdue wood, but conversely, if the wood element is too strong, it can also subdue thunder and fire. This was the current situation. Even though Yi Fei and the dragon turtle had the advantage in terms of nomological attributes, the difference in their realms was too great. Even with the black iron heavy sword, Yi Fei was unable to slash through the ironwood roots. Instead, the ironwood roots stabbed at him, turning him into a beehive. At this moment, Yi Fei also reacted quickly. He grabbed Xiao Qiao from the beast mark space and threw him to the dragon turtle. Big Black, take Xiao Qiao and leave quickly. Indestructible sword token, burn for me. Boom. Realizing that the black iron heavy sword was no match for the tree trance, Yi Fei decisively awakened the indestructible sword soul in his heavenly palace. Then, he held the black iron heavy sword in one hand and the indestructible sword token in the other. At the same time, he burned his heavenly palace fate wheel. He was prepared to buy time for the dragon turtle and Xiao Qiao at all costs. I can die, but Xiao Qiao must not be in any danger. Kill. Yi Fei jumped out from the dragon turtle's back. His collapsed golden body of laws was reformed under the burning of the origin. This was also Yi Fei's most powerful battle form. However, Yi Fei was still not confident that he could stop these battle trance. Roar. Just as Yi Fei was about to fight to the death, a drum-like roar suddenly came from the tall treetops. With this roar, the ironwood roots that were about to stab Yi Fei suddenly stopped. Then, a series of rhythmic voices came from the tall treetop. They seemed to be arguing about something fiercely and completely ignored Yi Fei's insignificant existence. Even if he had decided to fight to the death, Yi Fei still felt depressed when he was ignored like this. This meant that his strength was not worthy of the Trent's attention at all. Unless he had the ability to completely unleash the power of the indestructible sword soul. Yi! Xiao Qiao did not intend to run away. After being carried out by Yi Fei, Xiao Qiao looked at these huge trance curiously. At this time, when he heard the voices of the trance, Xiao Qiao was even more curious. He ran to the front and actually said something, which scared the trance who were still arguing. Then, Yi Fei saw that these trance that were hundreds of meters tall and thousands of meters tall were shrinking rapidly. However, even after shrinking, the trance were still close to 10 meters tall. Yi! What shocked Yi Fei even more was that the tallest trance was using a very stiff tone to speak the same language as Xiao Qiao. Yi Fei quickly looked at the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle shook its head, indicating that it did not understand the trance words at all. In the end, the trance used Xiao Qiao's language and the dragon turtle understood a little. Only then did Yi Fei reluctantly speculate that the trance stopped attacking because of Xiao Qiao. What was even more strange was that these trance could speak Xiao Qiao's language. Yi Fei immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He was not afraid of these trance. If they were too strong, he was afraid that both sides would not be able to communicate. Yi Fei's heart was moved. He said to Xiao Qiao, Xiao Qiao, tell these trance that we have no ill intentions. We were forced here by the flying serpent and the Lord of Heaven. I hope they will let us leave. Xiao Qiao nodded and immediately told Yi Fei's words to the trance. This caused another commotion among the trance. Then, the leader of the trance spoke again. He spoke for a long time. Hearing this, the dragon turtle's face turned ashen and it quickly translated. Yi Fei's face also turned ugly. Although the trance stopped attacking because of Xiao Qiao, they only said that they would not harm Xiao Qiao. However, Yi Fei and the dragon turtle were their targets. This was because this heavenly abode was the last resting place of the trance. The trance had an ancestral rule that they would kill any outsider who entered. Hearing this, Xiao Qiao looked at Yi Fei worriedly. Yi Fei was also speechless. However, he saw that the trance seemed to value Xiao Qiao a lot. Even if they could not come to an agreement, they did not take the initiative to attack. Yi Fei's heart was moved again. He said to Xiao Qiao, tell them. Ask them what they want and let us leave. Moreover, if they don't let us go, you will immediately get angry. Xiao Qiao nodded and quickly told Yi Fei's words to the trance. Then, Xiao Qiao's eyes widened and his little face became angry. He looked like Xiao Qiao was about to get angry. Chapter 21:17. Actually, Yi Fei didn't need to make Xiao Qiao pretend to be angry. This was because Xiao Qiao was already very angry when he realized that these trance had decided to kill Yi Fei and the dragon turtle. After hearing Yi Fei's words, Xiao Qiao put his hands on his hips and told the trance that Xiao Qiao was already angry. If they still wanted to attack Yi Fei and the dragon turtle, Xiao Qiao would resolutely fight to the end. As he spoke, not only did Xiao Qiao angrily condense the 8-colored spiritual wind, but he also summoned the god-beating whip in his other hand. At the same time, Xiao Qiao completely activated the spiritual bow that he hadn't used for a long time. A few symbols suddenly flashed on the spiritual bow. When he was in the land, Yi Fei didn't know that these symbols were actually the divine runes of the heaven realm. At this moment, when they saw Xiao Qiao fully armed, there was a huge commotion among the trance. Then, several furious gazes shot over at the same time. However, they didn't look at Xiao Qiao. Instead, they looked at Yi Fei. Despicable humans, shameless black pigs. You actually captured the little princess to threaten us. We, the trance, will definitely not compromise. The tallest trance suddenly spoke in a very stiff human language. Obviously, they had always understood the human language, but they didn't want to speak it. Moreover, these trance didn't seem to be very smart. They actually thought that Yi Fei had coerced Xiao Qiao and used Xiao Qiao to threaten them. Yi Fei was instantly speechless. The dragon turtle was even more speechless. It tried very hard to raise its head. It wanted to tell these trance that it wasn't a black pig, but a domineering dragon species. However, the fact that the trance suddenly spoke the human language meant that Xiao Qiao's threat was very effective. In particular, the way the trance addressed Xiao Qiao made Yi Fei suddenly think of something. Yi Fei slapped his head and finally understood. I finally understand why the crystal wall at the entrance of the grotto heaven looks so familiar. Xiao Qiao, do you still remember? In the land of buried gods, when we met the heavenly Tao tree, there was an identical crystal wall there. However, at that time, Yi Fei's realm was too low and he was too inexperienced. He didn't know that the crystal wall was the world barrier. Strange, why is the crystal wall of the burial land of the gods exactly the same as the entrance to the heavenly paradise? Is this a coincidence or, suddenly, Yi Fei trembled with excitement. He stepped forward and sincerely cupped his hands at the trance. Seniors, may I ask if there's a heavenly Tao tree among you trance that's like this? Yi Fei activated his memory sorcery and projected the image of the heavenly Tao tree in his memory. This scene caused an uproar among the trance. There was a thunderous buzz of discussion everywhere. However, this time, they were all speaking in the trance language. The dragon turtle couldn't understand them at all. It was still the same trance that could speak human language. He waved his hand and stopped the clamor. Then, he looked at Yi Fei in surprise and doubt. He didn't say anything and didn't intend to let go of the encirclement. He just returned to his 1,000-meter-tall trance form and once again let out a rhythmic sound into the distance. A sound. Soon, a huge echo came from the depths of the grotto world. Then, a huge golden divine tree flew over from afar. As it flew, the body of the divine tree shrank rapidly. Soon, it went from 1,000 meters tall to 10 meters tall, then from 10 meters tall to 10 meters tall, then from 10 meters tall to 10 meters tall. Then, it went from 10 meters to 3 meters tall. However, as the divine tree shrank, Yi Fei clearly realized that this huge divine tree was exactly the same as the heavenly Tao tree that he saw in the burial land of the gods. Then, the cheerful sound of horse hooves came from afar. It was a fiery red little fiery horse. It was charging towards Xiao Chao at lightning speed. Eee! Xiao Chao's eyes lit up when he saw the little fiery horse. He rushed over with his short legs and happily rolled around on the horse's back. The little fiery horse also licked Xiao Chao vigorously. There was a rich medicinal fragrance coming from its mouth. It's the Ganoderma horse that I saw in the burial land of the gods. How can it be? They disappeared in the earth domain but appeared in the heaven domain. Are you the senior heavenly Tao tree? Yi Fei turned his head in shock and looked at the heavenly Tao tree that had transformed into a human. At this moment, the heavenly Tao tree had transformed from a tall divine art into a majestic old man in a golden robe. Only the golden leaf of the heavenly Tao tree appeared on his forehead, indicating that he was not a real human. At this moment, the battle tree men dragged the beaten-up flying serpent and the Lord of Heaven over and asked the heavenly Tao tree to punish them. Flying Serpent was so frightened that his entire snake body curled into a ball. God! Divine Lord, please spare my life. This little snake is willing to surrender. What? Divine Lord! The Lord of Heaven had just woken up from his serious injuries. When he heard Flying Serpent's words and felt the terrifying power of the heavenly Tao from the heavenly Tao tree, the Lord of Heaven was too frightened. His injuries acted up again, and he fainted from the pain. Yi Fei almost jumped up. Divine Lord? You're really the senior of the heavenly Tao tree? Humph, brat, we meet again. Back then in the burial ground of gods, you instigated the little princess to pluck all the heavenly Tao fruits from my clone and even tried to pluck all my leave. This old man clearly remembers this debt. The heavenly Tao tree was imposing without being angry. When it was angry, it was like the heavenly Tao itself. It was very oppressive. Hearing the heavenly Tao tree mention the past, Yi Fei realized that the heavenly Tao tree in the land of buried gods was actually a clone of the heavenly Tao tree in front of him. Moreover, the real heavenly Tao tree seemed to be a divine lord. As if it knew what Yi Fei was thinking, the heavenly Tao tree sneered. Kid, don't even think about it. I'm just a half-step divine lord. I'm still a long way from becoming a true divine lord. However, I'm the spirit of the heavenly Tao tree. I was born with the power of the heavenly Tao, so I'm comparable to a divine lord. Senior, could this be the spiritual realm? Yi Fei had many questions, but the first thing he wanted to know was what kind of place this grotto heaven world was. No, this isn't the spiritual realm. The real spiritual realm has been destroyed long ago. We're all survivors of the spiritual realm. It's a long story. Let's wait until we welcome the little princess back to the palace. The heavenly Tao tree smiled as it called over a treeman. The treeman suddenly grew in size. At the same time, it extended its divine wood palm and landed in front of Yi Fei. Yi Fei hesitated for a moment. Thinking of the heavenly Tao tree's cultivation level and its relationship with Xiao Chao, these treemen probably wouldn't harm him. He walked onto the giant palm with the dragon turtle. Boom! The giant palm carried Yi Fei and rose into the air. It extended into the distance. At the end of the distance, another divine wood palm extended and took Yi Fei. It then passed him further away. The treeman didn't move, but used this unique method to quickly pass Yi Fei and the dragon turtle to the deepest part of the grotto heaven world. At the same time, the heavenly Tao tree and Xiao Chao were also quickly passed on another divine wood palm. Almost at the same time, they landed on the steps of the giant palace. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.